There were only a few days left to the clan congress and he had to spend some time on the road as well. Since the participating disciples were still not confirmed, it was no wonder that the peak owner of the 6 peaks were anxious. There were only a few days left to the clan congress and he had to spend some time on the road as well. Since the participating disciples were still not confirmed, it was no wonder that the peak owner of the 6 peaks were anxious. In the past, the participating disciples had already decided. Owner of Beast Hill's words caused the entire hall to turn silent, as everyone turned to look at Great Elder Meng Tu. Meng Tu did not answer directly. Master of Superpower Peak said, Long Fei. His North Peak was just established, there are many things going on. Moreover, he just entered the inner sect. If we were to take part in matters like the clan congress by seniority, he shouldn't be able to enter the North Peak. There is indeed nothing to be said about his strength, but the clan congress is not competing only in terms of martial power, there are other things as well. Master of Superpower Peak is right. Who does he think he is? When is it his turn to join the clan congress? Exactly. Every year, the disciples that participate in the clan congress are all chosen from the disciples of our 6 peaks. What could the people of the North Peak do? To be able to use alchemy, forge artifacts, or inscribe formations. Great Clan Elder, we all know that you like Long Fei. He is not bad, but this time it's clan congress. Many people objected. The corner of King of Sword Elves' mouth curled into a proud sneer. The last time he was almost overturned by Long Fei, this hatred, this resentment, he had already secretly allied with the other peak owner during this period of time. He had to force Long Fei out of the ancient antiquity, even if he could not get out of the sect, he had to let Long Fei go. A useless place. This is the ancient antiquity. He was the peak owner of the Sword Elf Mountain. In the span of a few hundred years in ancient antiquity, he was bullied by a brat. If he didn't take revenge, then where would he, King of Sword Elves, put his face? The hall was in an uproar. They all said that Long Fei did not have the qualifications, and that North Peak had no experience, so he was more unqualified to participate. The great clan elder looked at them all, and said indifferently, Long Fei will definitely not participate in the clan congress. As soon as he finished, the voices in the hall immediately quieted down. It was a good thing for them that Long Fei did not participate. Owner of Beast Hill said, he also doesn't have the qualifications to attend. But, the great elder continued, his North Peak is also a peak of the ancient antiquity and Long Fei is a peak owner. He has the rights and the qualifications to register a disciple. All of the peak owners' eyes went cold. However, they did not take it seriously. None of them were Long Fei's match. If Long Fei insisted on joining the clan congress, they would have no other choice but to let him handle the situation. However, right now, Long Fei was not participating in the competition. After joining in the competition, his subordinates' talents were also good, but with only 2 people participating, how could their talents be any higher? Could he break through the Immortal Swordsman rank? Even if it was the Immortal Swordsman rank, what about the disciples that they brought? The worst was at the 9th stage of the Sword Immortal realm, with the majority being King Swordsman rank, which could easily crush Long Fei's subordinates. Not to mention, do Long Fei's men know what it means to forge weapons? Do you know what alchemy, engraving, beast taming are? He definitely wouldn't understand. This way, even if Long Fei were to register with his subordinates, it would be useless. He was looking for a beating. Owner of Beast Hill said indifferently, I am not against him registering disciples, but in this world, strength is what is important, just his group of disciples. Hee. It's not just me, it's just a bunch of trash. It's just trash that came in from the outer sect. As soon as he finished, 3 people walked into the main hall. Long Fei said coldly, Owner of Beast Hill, who are you calling trash? He released his aura. Boom. Owner of Beast Hill immediately broke out in cold sweat, his mind started to tremble, and even his breathing became erratic and hurried, not daring to look up at Long Fei. He was instantly crushed by Long Fei's aura. The entire hall shook. All eyes were focused on Long Fei. The great clan elder's eyes flashed with a bright light, and thought to himself, good boy, the King Swordsman is finally here. And then, The great clan elder coughed lightly and replied. Captain Long Fei slightly retracted his aura, hugged his hands and said, "Great elder." The great elder faintly smiled and said, "I forgot to tell everyone that Captain Long is here to register for this disciple." And everyone looked at the great elder. Long Fei took over. "Moreover, I want to replace all of your disciples." As soon as he finished, Master of Superpower Peak sprung up from his chair, berated him and said, "Long Fei, you are too arrogant. Who do you think you are? Your brother has replaced us as disciples. Ph, do you really think you're some kind of peak owner, that you can be on equal footing with us? Who do you think you are?" Everyone stared at Long Fei angrily. Long Fei was not angry. Looking at the symbol on Master of Superpower Peak's chest, he said, "Master of Superpower Peak will fight?" Master of Superpower Peak said heavily, "It's me, how can I?" Long Fei continued, "Your disciple participated in the clan congress, right?" Master of Superpower Peak said, "That's right." Long Fei continued to ask, "That means, you should be stronger than your disciple?" The Master of Superpower Peak said, "Master is of course stronger than disciple. Long Fei, why are you asking this? You are just an outer sect disciple who just crawled in. Do you really think you are some peak owner? You still..." Long Fei didn't even look at what the Master of Superpower Peak was saying, he just said to Zhao Dahan who was beside him, "You idiot, pick him." "All right." Zhao Dahan was in an honest mood, he would do whatever Long Fei said. He took a step forward. Walking to the front of Master of Superpower Peak, his eyes darkened. Master of Superpower Peak's eyes turned sinister. "Lame duck, you dare to be presumptuous in front of me, I want you to..." Bam! Rumble. Zhao Dahan swung out his fist and smashed down heavily. It was nothing fancy, just an ordinary punch. Anyone could react to this move, so naturally, Master of Superpower Peak blocked it with his hand. However, it was just this one move. Crack! His arm was broken. His entire arm sank down, and Zhao Dahan's fist heavily smashed into Master of Superpower Peak's face. Boom! Both the man and the chair fell to the ground. The chair splintered. Master of Superpower Peak smashed onto the ground, the floor shattered and his entire body fainted as he fell to the ground like a dead dog. The entire audience was stunned. It was so quiet that it sent chills down one's spine. The great elder was also stunned. Looking back at Long Fei was calm and composed, his face revealing a cold smile. "Master of Superpower Peak, one punch is all you need. Who said just now that the world was about strength? Then. Now, I would like to ask, is this brother of mine qualified to join Clan Congress?" Long Fei's voice was very soft. However, every word was like a thunderclap that exploded in their hearts. Long Fei said, "Is there anyone else who is unconvinced? If there are still people who refuse to accept this, then come out. Today, I have plenty of time. If you don't accept it, I will beat you to death." Unconvinced? Unconvinced? Then we will beat them until they submit. That's how crazy he is. Although Long Fei had not come out from the North Peak these few days, he knew how the people from the other 6 peaks mocked him. Let them laugh a little now. The owner of Beast Hill said with a heavy voice, "Long Fei, you're too arrogant. Where do you think this place is?" Long Fei turned his gaze towards the owner of Beast Hill and smiled faintly, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm just so arrogant, what can you do? I wasn't going to be this arrogant, but all of you arrogant brats forced me to be this arrogant." Long Fei's words made the expressions of many peak owners and elders darken. A mere outer sect disciple who had just entered the inner sect was now sitting on their heads and pooping and peeing. This was incredible. Although Master of Superpower Peak was slapped onto the ground, none of them realized just how strong Long Fei was. Moreover, they also did not know what cultivation Long Fei and the people beside him were. Then again, this would affect whether or not their disciples could participate in the clan congress. As long as any disciple showed their face in the clan congress, it would count as an honor and would be of great help to their sect. They couldn't give the chance to Long Fei. The Peakshan Lord said, "Long Fei, what exactly do you want to do?" Long Fei said, "I just said that the disciples that you scum have groomed simply do not have the qualifications to represent the sect. All of you do not need to go. Going would be a loss of face. Owner of Beast Hill's eyes flashed with anger. You. The Peak Shun Lord was relatively restrained, his heart was just like the rest. Because of Long Fei's arrogance, it was filled with rage. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "Our disciples won't go. Could it be that you're going with us?" Long Fei laughed. "That's right." The Peak Shun Lord revealed a cold smile and said, "Do you understand formations? Do your subordinates know formations?" Long Fei, your cultivation is indeed strong. I do not deny that. Your subordinates are not bad either. But Clan Congress did not only compare strength, he also wanted to refine more. Pills, talisman, formation, weapon crafting. Do you understand all of this? His voice was filled with disdain. The surrounding elders and Peak Owner S all sneered. How could a mere outer court disciple, who has just entered the inner sect, understand all this? Exactly. Who can you replace our disciple with? Why don't you take a piss and take care of yourself? Who do you think you are? Kid, it's useless to be crazy. Each of the 6 peaks had their own specialties. Alchemy, artifact forging, formation, talisman. All of them sent their most proficient disciples to participate. Every peak's peak owner was specialized in training these things. These formations, artifact forging, and alchemy supporting occupations were all the same as the martial arts training, requiring talent. Many people in the palace laughed at Long Fei. Long Fei's mouth revealed a faint smile. The great clan elder looked at Long Fei. He suddenly thought about what Long Fei had told him back then. I won't participate in the clan congress, but I will ask my brothers to go there. Now that he saw Long Fei's confident smile, Meng Tu knew that Long Fei was not boasting in the first place, and had very possibly gained the strength to do so. However, Long Fei's cultivation was high, but he had other supporting occupations. No one in the North Peak understood this. Who would teach them this? Fang Wampeng also did not understand, and neither did Lu Zun. Even if he did, what realm would he be able to reach in 2 months of time? It was impossible to fight against the disciples who had trained for several decades. Meng Tu did not speak. He was waiting for Long Fei's performance. Long Fei looked at the Peak Shun Lord, and then looked at the armband on his chest. He knew that the Peak Shun was cultivating an array formation, so he said indifferently, "Are you a formation master?" The Peak Shun Lord revealed a proud expression and said haughtily, "That's right, you're in the Emperor formation realm." Emperor array realm? It's very strong. Long Fei pretended to be ignorant. The Peak Shun Lord laughed disdainfully, and said, "Besides my master, my formation is the strongest in ancient antiquity." He was extremely pleased with himself. Long Fei shouted towards the door, "Wu Tu, come in." "All right." Outside the hall, when Wu Tu heard Long Fei's voice, he immediately ran into the hall eagerly. Like a dog, he stood beside Long Fei and asked, "Boss, what do you need me to do?" Long Fei raised his eyes and said, "Hey, he is an array emperor." Wu Tu glanced at the Peak Shun Lord. The corner of Long Fei's mouth rose into a faint smile, and he said, "Pick him." Wu Tu grinned, "Great." It was as if he was doing something extremely easy. He completely did not place the Peak Shun Lord in his eyes. Wu Tu took a step forward, ignoring that this was the main peak's main hall. His fingers moved, releasing a strong power, quickly forming a formation. In a short 10 seconds, Wu Tu revealed his yellow teeth, laughed, and said, "Boss, the formation is complete." It was just a burst of power, followed by several seals. This was a formation? Peak Shun Lord couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha. This is a formation. Ha ha ha. Long Fei, oh Long Fei, where did you find such a funny person? Is he here to be funny? If that's called forming a formation, then even fools would know what a formation is. Ha ha ha." Indeed. Wu Tu's actions just now were a little comical, as if he had jumped into the great god realm. Seeing the Peak Shun Lord laughing loudly, the other elders all laughed. "Brat, where did you come from? Go back to where you came from. Don't embarrass yourself here. Is that also called a formation? Ha ha ha. This is too funny." Wu Tu had a calm expression. No matter how much these people mocked him, he did not seem to be laughing at them. Because of the level. In Wu Tu's eyes, These so-called peak owners and elders were too insignificant, so much so that he completely ignored them. No matter how happy they were, he didn't care. A bunch of idiots, Wu Tu said in an unexpected manner. It wasn't loud, but many people heard it. Immediately, everyone glared at Wu Tu. Peakshan Lord said in a stern voice, "What are you saying? Do you know the crime of insulting peak owners, or what kind of crime an elder is? Kid, immediately apologize. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave the hall." Long Fei immediately said, "That's right, what did you say? What do you mean a bunch of idiots? He's obviously a retard and a retard." Many of the peak owners and elders had incomparably ugly expressions. Looking towards the Great Elder, they said, "Great Elder, publicly insulting peak owners and elders, this crime." Not waiting for him to finish, Long Fei looked at him. Wu Tu immediately said, "Idiots, listen carefully. Peakshan Lord, right? If you can walk 1 meter away, let alone apologize, I can even kowtow and apologize to you." Suddenly, a sound was heard. The main hall quieted down. "Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha." The Peakshan laughed out loud and said, "You wouldn't be telling me that you just set up a formation at my side, right? With just you. 1 meter. Even I would." While speaking, the Peakshan Lord walked out with large strides, each step taking him 1 meter into the air. However, just when his foot was about to step 1 meter away, rumble. A loud explosion resounded. Rumble. Rumble. Without warning, a voice suddenly rang out. Many of the elders in the hall lowered their bodies, frightened out of their wits. A bolt of lightning struck down, directly striking the head of the Peakshan Lord. The Peakshan Lord's gaze tensed up as he lifted his head to look. His pupils dilated as he let out a blood-curdling scream, "Ah!" At the same time, his entire body fell to the ground. His hair was in a mess and his face was charred black. He had fainted. Just like that. Just once. The hall was eerily quiet. Everyone looked at Wu Tu as if they were looking at a monster. If Zhao Dahan's punch just now had caused Master of Superpower Peak to faint, then it was violence, and it was the suppression of cultivation. They could understand. However, how did Wu Tu inscribe the array just now? That kind of array formation that could be created with a few simple movements. What about the formation aperture? And the array symbols? What about time? They did not understand formations as well as the Peakshan Lord, but they still knew the basics. Moreover, even if they didn't know, how could the Peakshan Lord not feel it within the array? He was still laughing. He was a Grandmaster Array Master at the Emperor level, how could he not feel anything? This wasn't a big knife in front of Guan Gong, this was a big knife in his face. Now, they suddenly understood the meaning of Wu Tu's words, a group of idiots. They were truly like a bunch of ignorant fools. At this time, Wu Tu suddenly said again, "You idiots, are you still laughing?" They were all old men who had lived for hundreds of years. Someone pointed at his face and scolded him as an idiot. How uncomfortable was this feeling? It was impossible to put into words. Many peak owner were burning with anger, but they couldn't burst it out. Zhao Dahan was beside Long Fei, so his fist was able to knock Master of Superpower Peak down onto the ground. They weren't a match for him in terms of combat strength. Now, there was another formation master who was just like a madman. He would just need to wave his hand a few times to complete the formation. He really didn't dare to say anything. Normally, they would act arrogantly, ridiculing Long Fei and North Peak, but now, their faces were hot and swollen. King of Sword Elves' gaze secretly tensed up, his fists clenched inside his sleeves as he thought in his heart, what happened in the short span of 2 months? What exactly did the great clan elder give Long Fei? If he's become stronger, then why is it that the people around him? The King of Sword Elves hated him dearly. He didn't know what had happened, but Meng Tu was even more clueless. Wu Tu's formation had left him abnormally shocked. However, in comparison to his shock, Meng Tu was more excited in his heart. Seems like there's really hope for Clan Congress this time. They don't even need to send Long Fei out to battle, and they might even be able to get a good ranking, ha ha ha. Long Fei slightly said, "Wu Tu, don't speak like that, It's rude to call us idiots. These peak owners and elders have all lived for hundreds of years, and even though their skin is thick, they are still old people. Was he blaming Wu Tu? This was adding oil to the fire. Wu Tu also cooperated very much as he said, various peak owners and elders, I am a villager, and do not understand that much. Earlier, I said you were fools, and it was my mistake, but I can't use a fool to describe you all. He looked like a fool from the countryside. Was she admitting her wrongs by calling him a retard or a retard? The peak owners and elders all had the desire to kill. He just wanted to tear Wu Tu's mouth apart. However, he didn't dare to. Long Fei swept his eyes across them and said indifferently, Master of Superpower Peak is down, and Peak Shen Lord is down too. Who's next? The gazes of the remaining 4 peak owners tightened. Long Fei said, What's wrong? Both of them have submitted. If you submit. Alright, then you may disperse. Clan Congress has nothing else to do with you. I will let my subordinates participate. Couldn't be bothered to waste time with them. No way. Clan Congress's disciples will not be up to you to decide. Owner of Beast Hill still did not give up. If he lost this opportunity, he would lose a lot of cultivation resources. He couldn't give up no matter what. Long Fei looked at owner of Beast Hill and faintly smiled, saying, Still not giving up? You want to lie on the ground, owner of Beast Hill said, Long Fei, I don't believe that your subordinates know everything. I just don't believe that there are people among you who know how to tame beasts. Like a bet. Long Fei grinned and said, You're looking to be abused again, aren't you? Come on, I can crush you just by calling you a brother. Owner of Beast Hill's mind trembled, and said, I will not compare to you. I have been unwell recently. I will let my disciple compare to you. Lin Yuan. Disciple is here. Lin Yuan walked over quickly. Long Fei slightly tightened his gaze on Lin Yuan. The expressions in both Bailey Tianhai and Zhao Dehan's eyes secretly changed. This guy had been targeting them when they were in the outer sect and had sent people to deal with them. During this period of time, Long Fei, who was building the North Peak, did not have time to take revenge. He never thought that owner of Beast Hill would actually call Lin Yuan out. What was this called? This was called lighting lanterns near the latrine, seeking death. The corner of Lin Yuan's mouth revealed a look of disdain, coldly looked at the same Long Fei, and said, Junior brother Long, how have you been? It's been a while. Back then when we were in the rookie selection, I remember you are a trash blood vein, you don't even have the qualifications to display your talent. Did I remember wrongly? The word wasted was especially harsh. Owner of Beast Hill was very satisfied. Lin Yuan's inherent skill was very high, especially for Beastmaster School. As long as he had enough time, surpassing him in the future wouldn't be a big problem. Moreover, if Lin Yuan left the War Master Sect's Great Assembly, he would definitely win a few matches. At that time, he would be able to bring glory to the Beast Hill, and he would also be able to obtain more resources. Zhao Dehan's eyes darkened, and he wanted to go up. Was stopped by Long Fei. Long Fei said indifferently, You're here to fight? Lin Yuan sneered, and said, That's right, are you afraid? As usual, if you are afraid, kneel down in front of me and kowtow 3 times, I will spare your life. Long Fei said, You really don't know how death is written. Lin Yuan laughed, I do not know how to write the word death, but you do. He was extremely arrogant. He was not afraid of Long Fei, and he was confident in his beast-taming abilities. Long Fei turned to look at the Great Clan Elder and asked, Great Clan Elder, can we begin? The Great Elder was surprised for a moment, and then said, There are no demon beast here. If we are going to compete with the beast tamer, we should be able to find the demon beast, right? Beast taming obviously had to have demon beast, otherwise how could it be called beast taming? However, Long Fei said, Even without demon beast, I can still control beasts. Poochie. Lin Yuan immediately laughed, and said, Ha ha ha. You don't understand it at first glance. What does a waste blood vein like you understand? Junior brother, I will let you know what is called beast controlling technique. The Great Elder said, You may begin. He was cooperating very well with Long Fei. He wanted to know what Long Fei wanted to do. Originally, Long Fei didn't want to take action. However, if it was Lin Yuan, then it would be different. Long Fei laughed. Beastmaster skill? Hee hee. Then I'll let you know what is called the ability to control people. As soon as he finished, Long Fei's idea was suddenly released. He directly rushed into Lin Yuan's sea of consciousness and instantly controlled his central nervous system. In an instant, Lin Yuan's pupils dilated and his entire body became controlled from all angles. And then, Putong, he kneeled in front of Long Fei. Bam! He heavily kowtowed. Clang, clang. It was the first time he knocked at Long Fei's feet with all his might. He could not control it at all, and he used all his strength every single time. It was the first time he knocked at Long Fei's feet with all his might. He could not control it at all, and he used all his strength every single time. Just like Seba. It didn't take long before he was bleeding profusely. Owner of Beast Hill said with a heavy voice. Lin Yuan, what are you doing? Hurry and get up. Long Fei said lightly. He can't get up. Owner of Beast Hill stared at Long Fei. What did you do to him? Hurry up and let him go. Grand Elder. Lin Yuan is my direct disciple. Say something. He's going to die or be injured. If he dies, that's the loss for the ancient antiquity. Say it, Owner of Beast Hill said anxiously. The great clan elder looked at Long Fei. Long Fei said faintly, it's still in the competition, it's not over. The great elder also said, Owner of Beast Hill, Captain Long has said that it is still a competition. He completely fell in Long Fei's direction. Even without these, how could he dare to provoke someone who could kill God's powerhouse in one move? He dared to offend her. Owner of Beast Hill looked at Long Fei with exasperation and roared out, Brat, what exactly do you want? Long Fei laughed, I don't want anything to do with it. I just want him dead. The last phrase, Long Fei's eyes revealed killing intent. The reason why the outer sect disciples were being targeted was all because of Lin Yuan. If he did not seek revenge now, would he still be Long Fei? Bang, bang, bang. He was still kowtowing, bleeding profusely. Even though his skull had split open, he was still kowtowing. In the end, even his brain had spilt out, and Lin Yuan was still knocking on the door. Half of his head was rotten, but Lin Yuan was still knocking on the door. At this moment, the blood on his head had all returned to zero, meaning that he was already dead, but his body was still kowtowing. There was a large pool of blood. Long Fei's gaze was cold and expressionless as he watched everything. It was only until Lin Yuan's entire head was snapped that the idea retracted its gaze and swept its gaze across the area and said, Everyone, did you see that just now? This is the Beast Master skill, who else would like to compete? Others could control beasts, but he could even control humans. A human's mental energy is much stronger than a beast's. Moreover, Lin Yuan was controlled by Long Fei in that instant. Even if he died, his nerves were not dead yet, so he continued to kowtow non-stop. What was terror? This was terror. Everyone's face was dark as they subconsciously took a step back. He did not dare look straight into Long Fei's eyes. Even though Owner of Beast Hill was furious and wished he could kill Long Fei, he knew that he was not Long Fei's match. Moreover, the reason he sent Lin Yuan to battle was also for his own good. However, the result was beyond his expectations. Owner of Beast Hill took a step back, stared at Long Fei and said, This matter is not over yet. And then, with a sweep of his sleeve, he left in rage. Long Fei disdained, If it's not over, then don't leave. Before Long Fei could finish speaking, the owner of Beast Hill had already disappeared. Long Fei turned and looked at the other peak owner in the hall, and said, Peak owner of Powder Peak, do you want to compete with me in alchemy? About that. The reason for participating in the clan congress is to bring honor to the sect. Since the capable people under the Captain Long are gathered, then of course, it's your people who are participating. My Powder Peak will withdraw from this clan congress. The Powder Peak elder immediately cupped his fists and said, Alchemy might not be injured. However, if they were to compete in formations and beast taming, wouldn't they be unharmed? But in the end, they were either dead or unconscious. He did not dare to compete with Long Fei anymore. Long Fei looked at the Peak Master Fu, and said, Let's have a test with the talisman. No, no, no. Clan Congress, whoever is able to enter, my Fu Feng disciples will definitely not be a match for your North Peak disciples. I will withdraw, I will withdraw. Peak Master Fu immediately hugged his fists and retreated quickly. He didn't dare to compare himself to Long Fei either. In order to deal with Long Fei, he had to suffer the consequences himself. Without waiting for Long Fei to ask, the new peak owner of the Horcruxes Hill had already left the Clan Congress. In the end, only one Sword Elf mountain remained. King of Sword Elves looked at Long Fei with a slight smile on his face, and said, Captain Long's fighting strength is extraordinary, and there are many capable people under him. I think Clan Congress will be led by Captain Long this time, and taking first place will definitely not be a problem. Long Fei said, Lord Sword, you're also leaving? You can choose not to quit. King of Sword Elves said, I will withdraw. How can I compare with Captain Long? Long Fei said, since that's the case, then I won't allow it either. And then, Long Fei called out, all of you, come in. Everyone heard Long Fei's voice and walked into the hall. Brothers of 5 elements, Yun Shi, Lu Zun, and the 5 outer sect disciples. One by one, they entered the main hall. Immediately, the atmosphere in the hall had changed. Long Fei said lightly, Great Elder, these are the participating disciples. The additional disciples are the preparatory disciples. They were all people from the North Peak. Many of the peak owner were unhappy, but they did not dare to say anything. The Great Elder's gaze stared fixedly at them, and he was shocked in his heart. From the moment they entered the main hall, their auras had been off. The Great Elder immediately sensed their cultivations. He didn't know about the feeling, but once he sensed it, his heart began to pound as if he couldn't take it anymore. At this moment, the Great Elder was stuttering. Their cultivations have already broken through the Emperor Swordsman rank. The Great Elder seemed to muster an incomparably powerful strength as he said these words. He instantly stood up from his seat. That excited expression was unparalleled. As soon as he finished, the entire hall shook. They all looked towards the people around Long Fei. Emperor Swordsman rank? Impossible. 2 months ago, their strongest person was only the Immortal Swordsman rank, and moreover, is the Emperor Swordsman rank something that they can break through whenever they want to? This is impossible. Breaking through the Sword Emperor realm requires talent, and condensing a Sword of the Emperor requires an incomparable amount of strength. How many geniuses have failed? I don't believe it. None of them believed it. Even Long Fei wouldn't have believed it 2 months ago. But now, that was the truth. The Great Elder replied with a heavy voice, that can't be wrong. They are all Emperor Swordsman rank, and the auras they emit are the auras of an emperor. He walked to Long Fei's side and said excitedly, Captain Long, how did you do it? Long Fei smiled faintly, and said, as a peak owner, you naturally have to think for your subordinate, as for how it is done. Of course we're the stronger ones. Come. Since they do not believe, then let them open their eyes. Summon the power of your overlords. Boom. As soon as he finished, Zhao Dahan took a step forward, and the power of a monarch burst forth. Many of the peak owners looked like they were idiots as they looked at Zhao Dahan in shock. One after another, the Sword Emperors unleashed their powers. This group of people who had lived for hundreds of years were all stunned. Long Fei said indifferently, is my Sword Emperor guild all right? The same kind of Emperor Strongman. The same kind of Emperor Strongman. This had never happened before in the history of the ancient antiquity. So many strongest Emperor Swordsmen at once. How amazing was this? Not to mention the 6th peak, even if all the Master came out of seclusion now, they would still not be as many as the strongest Emperor Swordsman on Long Fei's side. Everyone in the hall was completely shocked. The shock caused his entire body to go numb, and he was unable to react at all. He was truly stupefied. It was the same with the Grand Elder. He was incomparably excited as he repeatedly nodded his head and said, okay, ha ha ha. Sword Emperor Guild, can you compare to the sect in Clan Congress this year? Ha ha ha. Captain Long, You really did not disappoint me. His face was filled with excitement. Long Fei also faintly smiled. He would do what he said. Of course. This was all thanks to the great clan elder. If he had not given the North Peak to him and told him that the North Peak had a holy source mine, he would not have allowed his brothers and sisters to break through the Emperor Swordsman rank. If there was still a sliver of hope from the other peak owners, then now, they had lost all hope. They were completely unable to argue with Long Fei. How could he compete? Their disciples were not even qualified to carry the shoes of Long Fei's subordinates. Captain Long, how did you let them break through the Emperor Swordsman rank? Can you teach me? Captain Long, we are all people from the ancient antiquity. If we want the ancient antiquity to become stronger, then we will make all of its disciples become strongest Emperor Swordsmen. Captain Long, my powder peak is about to come out of seclusion and will refine a batch of divine level pills. Captain Long, He called her Captain Long and you. He respectfully treated Long Fei as if he was a master. His tone was completely different from before. This was reality. Whoever was strong and possessed of a lot of resources would be the ancestor. All of the peak owners flattered Long Fei. Even the sect master and Peakshan Lord, who had just fainted, had the cheek to go up after waking up and figure out the situation. Only the King of Sword Elves. Looking at the many peak owner trying to curry favor with Long Fei, and thinking that all the old ladies were trying their best to act coquettish, King of Sword Elves was in a very bad mood. The hatred in his heart for Long Fei grew even stronger. He clenched his fists tightly, as if the dark and cold light in his eyes could kill. The great elder said in a bland voice, "All of you may disperse. I have some matters regarding the clan congress that I have to settle here. All peak owner may leave first." Once the great clan elder spoke, the surrounding elders and peak owners, although reluctant, could not do anything. Before leaving, they constantly invited Long Fei to their home. Just as all the peak owners were about to leave the great hall, Long Fei suddenly called out, "Lord Sword, please wait." King of Sword Elves was startled. He immediately stopped and asked, "Does Captain Long have any advice for me?" Long Fei asked, "Liu Luoshi still hasn't returned to the sect." King of Sword Elves revealed a trace of surprise, and said, "Oh yes, she hasn't returned to the sect yet. If you didn't say it, I would have forgotten. She said that she had trained hard for 2 months. Now that the time has come, why hasn't she come back yet? Could something have happened?" As he spoke, he carefully looked at Long Fei's eyes. Hearing "will something happen," Long Fei's pupils suddenly contracted. King of Sword Elves laughed coldly in his heart. "Ha ha ha. It seems like Liu Luoshi is really your weakness." Long Fei took a step forward and said, "Lord Sword, did Liu Luoshi really go to Donghuang mountain range?" King of Sword Elves replied, "Of course it's true. How could I lie to you? She is the disciple that I am most proud of and one that I value most." He couldn't tell if the King of Sword Elves was telling the truth or not. During this time, Long Fei was really worried about Liu Luoshi, and in his heart, he had always felt that something had happened to Liu Luoshi. The mission has not come back yet. This isn't like Liu Luoshi. Moreover, Long Fei had promised Liu Luoshi that he would definitely enter the inner sect, but now, Long Fei said again, "Lord Sword, do you know what happens when you lie to me? If you tell me where she is now, I can guarantee that you can only break through the Emperor Swordsman rank a month. Break through to the Sword Emperor level in 1 month. To any powerhouse of the King Swordsman, this was an existence equivalent to a dream. However, if Long Fei could help his subordinate break through to the Sword Emperor level in a short 2 months, then it would definitely be able to help the King of Sword Elves break through as well. There was no doubt that this was a great temptation. However, the hatred King of Sword Elves had for Long Fei had already gone deep into the marrow of his bones. He pretended to be full of envy, and said, "Captain Long, I really don't know right now." As long as he didn't say anything, Long Fei couldn't do anything to him. Moreover, King of Sword Elves understood that Liu Luoshi was extremely important to Long Fei. Thinking of this, the King of Sword Elves became even more excited. In the end, he had no choice. Long Fei could only let King of Sword Elves leave. The only people left in the hall were the great clan elder and Long Fei. Bailey Tianhai lightly shook his head at Long Fei, and said, I also didn't see anything either, or he didn't know, or he was too good at pretending, and didn't have any flaws. Meng too had his doubts in his heart the entire time, and asked, Who is Liu Luoshi to you? Long Fei did not conceal anything as he said, He is my woman. Meng too was shocked. Your woman? Long Fei laughed bitterly. How laughable, I can't even protect my own woman, and now she doesn't even know where she is. Donghuang Mountain Range. Donghuang Mountain Range. Long Fei muttered, he wanted to go to Donghuang Mountain Range to find Liu Luoshi. Meng Tu said, Donghuang Mountain Range is much bigger than the ancient Lai Mountain, and also much more dangerous. It's even harder to find people there than to find a needle in a haystack. And then again, Meng Tu did not want Long Fei to go to the Donghuang Mountain Range. Actually, finding Liu Luoshi was very easy. One had to know that the ancient antiquity had a mirror that specialized in finding people. As long as he asked the Sikh mirror, he would naturally find it. However, Meng Tu did not say. He had his own selfish motives and wanted Long Fei to come back from Clan Congress. He didn't want to be distracted by Long Fei's matter. Long Fei laughed bitterly yet again, and thought to himself, Luoshi, where exactly are you? Bailey Tianhai said, No matter how big it is, I have to find it. Compared to Clan Congress, of course the matter of sister-in-law is more important. Zhao Dahan also said, Yes, sister-in-law's business is bigger than anything. Meng Tu's face darkened, and said, Long Fei, what do you think is good? Take your team to the Clan Congress, leave the matter of Liu Luoshi to me. Before you come back, I'll definitely help you find him. Long Fei looked at Meng Tu. Meng Tu said, I am now the acting patriarch, and my words are an order. I can let the entire sect's disciples enter the Donghuang Mountain Range to search for me. He still wanted Long Fei to join the Clan Congress. Moreover, he did not know what Liu Luoshi meant to Long Fei. If he had known, he would never have done this. Long Fei said, All right, then I will leave everything to Great Clan Elder. Meng Tu patted Long Fei's shoulders and said, Don't worry, I will definitely find him for you. Returning to the North Peak, Long Fei was still worried. Returning to the North Peak, Long Fei was still worried. The concern for Liu Luoshi and one person was especially difficult to bear. It was as if something bad had happened. Uncle Fang, help me make a trip to the Donghuang Mountain Range. Long Fei found Fang Wampeng. Fang Wampeng said, All right, I will go to Donghuang Mountain Range right now. Don't worry, peak owner, as long as she is in Donghuang Mountain Range, I will definitely find her. He was now a third-stage god's powerhouse. No one in the ancient antiquity knew of his cultivation yet. Donghuang Mountain Range may be in danger, but with Fang Wanpeng's current strength, there should not be anyone capable of stopping him. Long Fei said, Thank you for taking a trip. This was, after all, the Donghuang Mountain Range, an incomparably large place. Finding a person was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Fang Wampeng said, This is what I should be doing. Finished. Fang Wampeng's figure moved, and like a meteor, he disappeared into the horizon in an instant. At his level of cultivation, he no longer needed to sit on the transfer array. Moreover, using a transportation formation would bring about unnecessary trouble. Brother, let sister-in-law's matter be more urgent, so what of Clan Congress? It's fine if we don't go, we'll go to Donghuang Mountain Range to find sister-in-law. Bailey Tianhai walked to Long Fei's side and said. Zhao Dahan also said, That's right, big brother. It's all right if Clan Congress doesn't go, the most important thing is to find sister-in-law. The brothers of 5 elements also nodded. To them, Long Fei was everything. Although they were disciples of the ancient antiquity, in their hearts, Long Fei was everything to them, and Long Fei's matter was more important than anything else. Long Fei shook his head, Uncle Fang, it's enough to go alone, let's go to Clan Congress. It wasn't that he didn't want to go, but that it was useless. Is Liu Luoshi in the Donghuang Mountain Range or not? It was really hard to say. And then again, he had helped several times when Long Fei owed him a favor, and he had also promised Meng Tu before, so he had to go, no matter what. Phoenix giggled and said, My darling, big sister Luo, she will be fine. Yoon, she was a little envious and jealous in her heart. She knew that Liu Luoshi was a woman that was like a fairy, and was really important to Long Fei. Long Fei smiled in consolation. In another place, Sword Elf Mountain. Damn it, damn it. Abominable. Ah! The king of sword elves was furious and blew up everything in the hall. Returning from Main Hall Peak, the anger he held in burst out. The difference in cultivation level compared to Long Fei caused him to be especially powerless. He felt that no matter how hard he tried, he wouldn't be able to surpass Long Fei no matter how talented he was. Just like a grain of sand compared to the entire sky, how could he be a match? He was too small. When Long Fei was in the immortal swordsman rank, he was already able to crush the two great master. Although the old ancestors with purple hair didn't attack, one could tell that he wasn't a match for Long Fei. Not a single person in the Sword Elf Mountain was a match for Long Fei. This feeling of powerlessness was too unbearable. It was worse than piercing his heart. Peak of King Swordsman, how strong is he now? All of his subordinates are Emperor Swordsman rank, so even if the entire Sword Elf Mountain added up, they still wouldn't be his match. No. Now, even if the 6 peaks joined forces, they would still not be his match. The entire ancient antiquity would probably have to listen to him in the future. Ah! Thinking of this, the king of sword elves couldn't help but let out a wild roar towards the sky. No. No. I will absolutely not let him continue to be so arrogant. I will absolutely not let him continue to live in this world. King of sword elves' eyes were bloodshot. This caused Ling Yuan to be scared stiff. He had never seen his master so angry before. King of Sword Elves' gaze sank, looked at Ling Yuan, and asked, "How is Liu Luoshi recently?" Ling Yuan said, "Everything is normal, she is not making trouble now, she is just cultivating every day, then doing some exercise, only that the amount of exercise is not very big. The strange thing is, her cultivation hasn't improved at all in this period of time." Humph. King of Sword Elves snorted, "This talent is limited, it's too difficult to improve. As long as she's fine." King of Sword Elves' heart sank. He knew clearly in his heart that wanting to kill Long Fei was his only trump card. Ling Yuan said, "Master, if Long Fei is unable to find junior sister, do you think he will come back? If he goes on a killing spree, then we..." Long Fei was too strong. After crushing the two Master S, once he started killing without caring about the rules of the ancient antiquity, no one could stop him. The king of sword elves laughed coldly and said, "Let's start a massacre." Humph. He won't have that chance. I want him to die. I want to become the sect master of the ancient antiquity. Ling Yuan was startled. I wonder what King of Sword Elves is going to do. King of Sword Elves said, "Ling Yuan, you have set up 2 forbidden forces in the Forbidden Grounds." Finished. King of Sword Elves took out a scroll. On top of the scroll was the word forbidden. There are 2 forbidden powers. Ling Yuan did not understand. King of Sword Elves said, "Right now, Liu Luoshi is our only trump card. As long as she is in our hands, we will kneel down for Long Fei, and if he wants to lie down, he will definitely lie down for me. He's going to participate in the clan congress immediately." However, the great clan elder promised to find Liu Luoshi, that old fellow. "We have no choice but to guard against him, as there are 2 power of taboos inside this scroll. One is to hide their divine powers. I'm afraid that he will use the Seek Mirror to find someone. Such a power of taboos can directly hide Liu Luo. If Long Fei wants to go on a killing rampage, this power is controlled by me and he won't be able to kill me." After saying that, the King of Sword Elves' lips curled into a cold smile. "Kid, you want to fight me? Humph. Let's see how I'll kill you." Ling Yuan said, "Even if 2 power of taboos can stop Long Fei, but how are we going to kill him? Our strength is simply not enough." King of Sword Elves laughed, "We still need to use Liu Luoshi for this. You don't need to worry about that, you can settle these 2 power of taboos first, I'll do the rest." Ling Yuan cupped his fists and said, "Yes, I will immediately do it." He had no choice now. He could only tread his way to the end of the tunnel. King of Sword Elves looked at the sky and laughed sinisterly. He took out a badge with the word profound carved on it and coldly laughed, Meng Tu, you didn't think that I would have a divine space powerhouse's summoning badge, right? Heh heh. With it, I don't need to get to know the divine powerhouse who likes Liu Luoshi through you. With it, I can have divine powerhouse deal with Long Fei. Ha ha ha. King of Sword Elves laughed as if he saw the moment Long Fei knelt in front of him. He had never been so humiliated in his life. A dignified Sword Elf Mountain was forced into such a corner by an outer sect disciple. If he doesn't take revenge, he's not King of Sword Elf. The night before his departure. The night before his departure. Phoenix sat on a cliff, her two small feet gently swaying. A cold breeze blew against her face, causing a few strands of hair to flutter gently. Right now, she did not have the appearance of a naive lowly on her body. Instead, he had an ice-cold look on his face, as if he was someone who had a higher position. Not long later, a man wearing a yellow robe carefully landed on the ground and respectfully said, young Miss Phoenix's voice was a little cold as she said, "You're here." The yellow-robed man replied, "Yes." He was extremely respectful and did not dare to be disrespectful in the slightest. He was Demon Emperor of the ancient Lai Mountain. The lofty Demon Emperor, however, was like a little servant in front of Phoenix. He was terrified and afraid, and didn't even dare to pant too much. Because he knew who the little girl sitting in front of him was and what kind of power she possessed. Phoenix said indifferently, "Go to Donghuang Mountain Range and help me find someone." The yellow-robed man asked, "Who are you looking for?" Phoenix said, "A woman named Liu Luoshi, a disciple of ancient antiquity, said to be bitterly cultivating in Donghuang Mountain Range. I want you to find it before I come back." The yellow-robed man immediately replied, "As you command, I am acquainted with Donghuang Mountain Range's Demon Emperor. As long as you are in Donghuang Mountain Range, you should be able to find him." Phoenix said, "I don't want it. I want to find it." His tone immediately changed. The yellow-robed man's body trembled as he said, "I will definitely find it. I will definitely find it." Cold sweat dripped from his palms. He really wanted to die. Phoenix fell silent. After a long time, she suddenly asked, "When does my aunt want me to go back?" The yellow-robed man shivered. Phoenix said, "Do you think that I do not know that you have sent someone to inform my aunt?" He had been quite frightened from the start, but now he kneeled down on the ground and said, "Miss, I was afraid that the Valley Master would be worried, so." Phoenix interrupted her. "I'm not blaming you. I'm just asking you, when will my aunt allow me to return?" The yellow-robed man gulped. "I didn't say anything about that. I just wanted to report to her about your situation at any time." Oh. Phoenix was slightly surprised by this result. However, after pausing for a few seconds, Phoenix muttered, "There isn't much time left. Even if I struggle, I might not be able to stay for long." Huff. Looking at the pure white moon, she said softly, "My darling, when will you be able to go to Phoenix Valley and marry me? Bring your 8 King Kongs, your left and right protectors, your 108 gods." As she spoke, she smiled. Under the silver moonlight, her smile was earth-shattering. Thinking of that scene, Phoenix's heart felt as sweet as if she had eaten honey. The yellow-robed Demon Emperor looked at it directly. He had never seen a girl with such a beautiful smile before. While he was in a daze, Phoenix suddenly coughed and asked, "What are you doing here? Why aren't you looking for someone for me?" The yellow-robed Demon Emperor was shocked again as he hurriedly stood up and slowly retreated. "I will do it right now." The next morning, in the plaza outside Main Hall Peak, Meng Tu personally went forward and shook hands with them. "You are all the elites of the ancient antiquity. You guys are to represent the ancient antiquity to participate in the General Assembly of the War Master sect. I wish you all the best, turn over all the sects, and let the entire ancient world know the names of our ancient antiquity." Long Fei waved his arms, "Ancient antiquity." The rest of the people followed and shouted, "Ancient antiquity." Ancient antiquity was completely obedient to Long Fei. Meng Tu was not embarrassed either. If someone could help him break through from the immortal swordsman rank to the Sword Emperor within 2 months, kneeling down was fine too. This was reality. Meng Tu looked at Long Fei and said, Whether ancient antiquity can become famous in one battle is up to you. Long Fei said, Great Elder, don't worry. I've said that I will not disappoint you. Meng Tu said, I believe you. I truly hope that you can enter the stage, because there are quite a few families of the divine space watching this competition, so you might be directly chosen to enter the divine space. At that time, you will no longer have to participate in the selection anymore. Yes. He really hoped that Long Fei could participate in the competition. Because, if Long Fei participated, then this year's first-place position in the clan congress was 90% certain, and Long Fei's strength could shock everything. Long Fei said, If there is a need, I will fight. Long Fei also made his plans. After all, they were a sect in the ancient world's mortal world. Ancient antiquity was at most a middle-ranking sect, an existence that no one would know even if he reported his name to them. The ancient world was too big. It was too big to imagine. Once a year, Clan Congress was the strongest collision that came about in the mortal world. Every year, there would be geniuses that did not appear for 100 years or even 1,000 years. There were even monsters from ancient times, and there were even people from the ancient clans that cultivated once again. Powerhouse. Even if all of Long Fei's opponents were to participate in the tournament, they might not even be able to win. If something went wrong, Long Fei would still participate. He could not let his brother suffer a loss. Meng Tu nodded, and said, All right. I'm waiting here for your triumphant return. Long Fei smiled faintly. Meng Tu said in a low voice, I will help you think of a way to deal with your woman, don't worry about the competition. Long Fei said, Thank you. Meng Tu said, The one who should be thanking me. All right, it's time. Depart. Meng Tu's words shook the place. The battle drum sounded out, causing a loud explosion. Soon after, an enormous creature flapped its wings and appeared in the air above the square. Meng Tu said, This is an ancient giant rock raised at Main Hall Peak. It knows the path to God's material ground. Long Fei, I've already given him instructions. He will completely listen to your orders. Long Fei did not dawdle and gently leaped onto the back of the giant Peng. The other brothers all flew up as well. Long Fei moved. The ancient giant rock waved its wings and disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. Meng Tu said complacently, Ancient antiquity is going to become famous this time. The old servant beside him said softly, Master, the Sikh mirror cannot find that disciple. Heh! The smile on Meng Tu's face immediately stiffened. How come I can't find it? The old servant said, There are two possibilities. The first possibility is dead, and the dead Sikh mirror cannot be found. The other possibility is that she has been concealed with some sort of power. The figure of King of Sword Elves immediately appeared in Meng Tu's mind, the space between his eyebrows sinking. Dark God Tribe. Master, I just received news that the brat really came to participate in the clan congress. We will arrive at the god's material ground in 2 days. Should we? The old man in black made a murderous look. The black-robed old man closed the ancient book, the corners of his mouth slightly hooked up, and he said indifferently, The establishment of the Dark God Tribe has never failed. 2 failures on 1 goal. He will definitely not fail 3 times. This time. I want to let him know the consequences of getting angry at Dark God Tribe. As soon as the Holy Source crystal entered his body, the rich and profound power of the Holy Source was released from within Long Fei's body. As soon as the Holy Source crystal entered his body, the rich and profound power of the Holy Source was released from within Long Fei's body. In the refined space, Long Fei sat cross-legged with a secret lock between his eyebrows. Right now, he was at the 9th stage of the King Swordsman. He was only 1 level away from Emperor Swordsman rank. He wanted to break through. But it wasn't that easy. He had cultivated continuously for a few days in the Holy Source Veins mine below the North Peak, but it was extremely difficult for his cultivation to progress at all. It was as if a shackle was tightly clamped around his neck. The people around him were all Emperor Swordsman rank S, but he, only at the 9th stage of the King Swordsman. Although he had spent quite a lot of time during this period of time to teach them all kinds of auxiliary skills, his talent was definitely not bad. Why was it so difficult to break through a Emperor Swordsman rank? Moreover, from the moment he entered the King Swordsman rank, he felt that every breakthrough was extremely difficult. Even with the support of the powerful Holy Source, he still felt it to be extremely difficult. An hour later. Huff. Long Fei let out a breath of air, and frowned. So difficult. You haven't advanced at all, but you can't touch the threshold of the Sword Emperor realm. What's going on? Why do I feel like my cultivation is different from theirs? Long Fei felt that it was very easy for Bailey Tianhai to break through the Emperor Swordsman rank, but he found it incredibly difficult. Confusion. Long Quang could see the doubt in Long Fei's heart, and said indifferently, "Master, this is the reason why you've used your spirit blood too much. Actually, it's not that it's harder for you than others, but your spirit blood is extremely important to your cultivation. Your current consumption rate is extremely severe, so your cultivation speed is extremely slow as well." Heh! Long Fei was startled. He thought to himself. In the past, the old demon said that the more spirit blood uses it, the harder it would be to walk down the road. Is that true? Long Guangdao, that's right. Every single drop of spirit bloods will mean that you have consumed 1,000,000 years of energy. The more you consume, the more energy you will consume in your body, and in front of the Holy Source Stone, the more energy you will consume. The more there is, the less energy he will have, and the more difficult and slower your cultivation will be. Long Quang said sincerely and earnestly. He tried his best to stop Long Fei from using spirit blood. However, he was very clear about Long Fei's style of doing things and would not listen to him at all. Every time he did it, he would do it his own way. In the mortal world, breaking through the Emperor Swordsman rank was one of the strongest shackles. It was very easy for Bailey Tianhai, Zhao Dehan, and the others to use the powerful energy in the Holy Source vein mining to break through the Sword Emperor's bottleneck. But it became very difficult for Long Fei. Is that so? Long Fei revealed a smile. I do not regret what I did in the past. Long Guangdao, Master, right now, you are still only having difficulty breaking through. After you enter the divine space, every time you break through, it will be much more difficult than it is now. The more difficult it is, the more difficult it will be. There's no need for that. Long Fei did not take it seriously at all. Moreover, there was no need for him to take it seriously. If ordinary breakthroughs did not work, he still had the path of the system. He could kill people and level up. As long as the system was here, nothing would be a problem. However, Long Quang changed the topic. A little good. Long Fei asked, what benefits? Long Guangdao, right now, the harder it is for you to break through, the harder it is for you to do so. Once you break through, the amount of energy you can obtain will be greater than others. Is that so? Long Fei said, the reason why I was able to level up so quickly in the past was entirely because of spirit blood in my body. Is it because of this body of mine? He. Long Fei scoffed at Long Quang's words. He cultivated on his own. Relying on your own effort. Long Guangdao, that's not entirely the reason, but it's more or less like this. The more you, spirit blood, are exhausted, the more your talent, as well as your potential, is being consumed. What will happen in the end? Long Fei asked. Long Quang was startled, and thought for a while, I don't know what will happen in the end, but if you use up all of spirit blood's energy, you might become a very ordinary person, without any advantages. Ordinary? It was too tactful. If it was more direct. That was trash, muggle, trash. He. Long Fei smiled faintly again, and thought to himself, with the system in hand, and the world in my possession, mediocre? It doesn't exist. Your father is destined to be the brightest star in the sky. Who? When Long Fei came out of refined space, his eyes opened slightly. Bailey Tianhai saw that Long Fei had awoken from his cultivation, and stepped forward to say, Big brother, there's still half a day before we reach God's material ground. Long Fei nodded. At this moment, Zhao Dehan became excited. Look up there, what's that? The crowd looked in the direction he was looking. Everyone was stunned. A fleet. A huge fleet. Each bird was fully armored, glowing with a golden light. They were extremely huge, like a starship. And not one. There were actually more than 10 of them. It could be said that it covered the sky and blotted out the sun. It was an extraordinary sight to behold. Compared to this fleet, Long Fei and the other ancient giant rock were like country bumpkins, completely incomparable. Yunshi said, "This should be the god's eagle. It's an extremely rare bird in the mortal world, the king of birds. All of a sudden, there are more than 10 god's eagles. It seems that this sect is extremely powerful." Wu Tu asked, "Is this the legendary god's eagle? The armors on their bodies were grown by themselves?" Yunshi nodded his head and said, "The armor on their bodies is created through continuous cultivation. Just like humans, the thicker the armor, the stronger they are. So powerful. How cool. This is the first time I've seen the legendary divine beast of God's eagle. How awesome." All of them revealed envious expressions. Zhao Dahan grinned and said, "If I were to use one end to play around, then it would be perfect." He was not finished. The god's eagle suddenly let out a sharp cry. It seemed to have heard what Zhao Dahan said. It was as if he was a peerless beauty while Zhao Dahan was a toad. It was angry. Extremely angry. Huala! Huala! A celestial king suddenly lowered his altitude, completely covering the ancient giant rock, his gigantic shadow directly covering them. At this moment, the ancient giant rock was trembling slightly. In front of the god's eagle, it was just a little dot. Moreover, in front of these divine beast, it was very afraid. Long Fei gently caressed the ancient giant rock and said, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. They are just passing by." Without waiting for Long Fei to finish, God's eagle screamed yet again. It was extremely ear-piercing. The ancient giant rock's eardrums immediately burst out blood. With a flap of its wings, it fell down as if it had crashed into a plane. Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! A burst of ridiculing laughter came from the back of the god's eagle. Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! A bunch of bumpkins. What kind of bird is that? Is a little ant in front of us god's eagle? A trash sect like this dares to participate in the clan congress? Who gave them the courage? Ha ha ha! A white-clothed man held a folding fan in his hand. His demeanor was graceful, and his body emitted the aura of a natural-born superior. With a wave of his fan, he smiled lightly and said, "Every year, trash will appear in the clan congress. This is unavoidable. They are proud to be able to participate in the clan congress. They don't even know that they are trash." With that, he folded his fan and put his hands behind his back. He looked at the sky, his eyes blazing. He looked up at the sky. He was the man who wanted to enter the divine space. Senior brother is so handsome. He's too handsome. My heart is pounding. A few female disciples looked at the man in white with infatuation. Another man in green stepped forward and said, "But one of the trash sects was missing just now." Ha ha ha. It would be a waste of resources for a trash sect like this to want to disappear from this world. The white-clothed man laughed. "A large number of trash from clan congress will disappear." The two of them looked at each other and started laughing at the same time. Ha ha ha. And then there was Long Fei. The ancient giant rock's eardrums were directly shattered by the god's eagle's sharp cry, and its head was splitting open, fresh blood continuously shooting out. It couldn't control its body and continued to fall. Even so, it still protected Long Fei and the others with all its might. "He's going to fall. Boss, this group of people are going too far. Boss, just now, they did it on purpose. Get rid of them. Let's not talk too much first. We should first see how we can stabilize the ancient giant rock. If we continue falling like this, it won't be able to take it," everyone said. Although the situation was dangerous, no one was flustered. Each of them had Emperor Swordsman rank S that they could fly out at any time, but the ancient giant rock that came with them was one of them. They did not want to be abandoned like this. As Long Fei protected the phoenix, he looked up and glanced at the high-up god's eagle. Under the blazing sun, the armor on god's eagle's body flickered with light, as if he was a king. Then, Long Fei moved and immediately connected to the ancient giant rock's idea. "Ancient giant rock, you guys hurry up and jump. I'm afraid that I won't be able to hold on much longer. You guys hurry up, I won't be able to hold on for much longer. Long Fei said, Don't worry, we won't let you die. The ancient giant rock said, Thank you, but my head is already shattered, I won't be able to live much longer. You all should leave quickly, I know your cultivations can safely leave, don't worry about me. To be able to die under the attack of God's eagle, I could be considered to have died in peace. It had resigned itself to its fate. Just like how the weak would meet Powerhouse. It was probably the last glory to die in the hands of the Powerhouse. The ancient giant rock gave up. This was reality. No matter how much it evolved, it would still not be a match for the God's eagle. It had given up on him, but Long Fei had not. Long Fei said, I have never abandoned this word in Long Fei's world. The idea moved. Check out the ancient giant rock's injuries. Just as the ancient giant rock said, it was very serious. Hemorrhage of the internal cranium. The gash on the top of his head was rapidly decreasing. At its current speed, it would die in less than 3 minutes. Long Fei frowned. The spiritual medicines he had on him were completely useless. However, Phoenix saw the space between Long Fei's eyebrows tighten, and a strange pill appeared on his palm. She giggled and said, My darling, feed this to it. Long Fei was slightly taken aback. He received the medicinal pellet and the idea said to the ancient giant rock, Eat this pellet. While they were talking, Long Fei's figure flashed and landed in front of the ancient giant rock. He immediately threw all the medicinal pellets into its mouth and said softly, No matter if you're a human or a flying beast, you must have dreams. The ancient giant rock said bitterly, Even dreams have to start from one's own conditions. God's eagle was born a king among birds. We, the Rock clan, are simply unable to match up against him. Perhaps this is the natural difference. It hadn't finished speaking. Suddenly, its body underwent a drastic transformation, and a powerful energy erupted from its body like a volcano. The ancient giant rock had no time to react at all. In an instant, boom, his wings flapped. Several feathers fell off. At the same time, sounds of metal colliding rang out and a purple light flashed from the feathers. Buzz. Metallic. Furthermore, it was not an ordinary metal. Rather, it was a special material. What pill is this? Before he could finish, he heard a loud roar, boom. His pupils had also turned purple. His sharp mouth turned purple. His body swelled up as if it were growing. This. Boss, what's this? Wow. Evolution? This is too eye-catching. Every inch of the ancient giant rock's body was changing and that kind of powerful aura was continuously surging out. The wings spread out heavily. Rumble. Boom rumble rumble asterisk rumble. The fierce sound of the wind seemed to have created a huge lightning field. Its body immediately stabilized. His eyes lit up as he asked, What power is this? I. He was so excited that he was at a loss for words. Long Fei was also secretly surprised. The power of this pill was too strong. Long Fei flew back to Phoenix's side. Phoenix giggled and lowered her voice. This is our Phoenix Valley's unique Spirit King pill. As long as you consume any one of these demon beasts, you can become a Spirit King. This is much stronger than the rank of God's Eagle. Spirit King was of a higher rank than Demon Emperor. A single pill could evolve thousands of miles. Long Fei secretly clicked his tongue. This pill. How awesome is it? Long Guangdao, Spirit King pills from the Phoenix Valley are not common. One of them can change the fate of a demon beast. This girl is truly good to you, 100%. Long Fei understood. He looked at Phoenix. Phoenix still had a cute smile on her face as she said, My darling, why are you looking at me like that? Were you moved by me? You must be in love with me. Hee hee. Long Fei smiled lightly and said, Amen, I'm in love with you. Phoenix's tears almost flowed out as she said, My darling, I was waiting for you to come to Phoenix Valley to marry me. 2 great protectors, 5 great ancestors, 8 King Kong, 108 gods. I remember everything. Long Fei gently pulled Phoenix into his embrace and muttered, Fool. It was also at this time. The ancient giant rock let out a cry. Rumble. Rumble. Within a radius of 1,000 miles, the sound of thunder seemed to have exploded. Those gods' eagles all started to tremble. Long Fei raised his eyes, looked at the ancient giant rock, and said, I always have a dream, what if it comes true? Right. So what if he's a king? So what if he's above us? So what if there's an innate difference? Don't be terrified, just do it. The ancient giant rock said excitedly, You're right, don't be terrified, it's just doing. Long Fei laughed, Do whatever you want. I almost died just now. Damn it, it's his turn. The ancient giant rock was excited. Ancient giant rock also had its own vengeance. Ancient giant rock also had its own vengeance. He began to accept his fate. This was because the god's eagle was a king and he was just an ant in front of him. Right now, God's eagle was just an ant in front of him. How could he not come back for revenge? Senior brother, why is it that there's lightning everywhere? Yeah. Natural phenomenon. What is this? Was it the sound of a certain powerhouse traveling through time and space? On God's eagle's back, a few disciples were discussing. The white-clothed man gently shook his head. The thunder just now was a kind of explosive sound caused by some sort of power. To be able to do this, I'm afraid. Not waiting for him to finish. God's eagle's body suddenly sank. Unstable flight. The people on the eagle's back were all shocked, and they shook slightly. The white-robed man immediately frowned. What's going on? The azure-robed man scolded him as well. How do you fly? The king of God's eagle's birds. It would at least take 1,000 years for one to mature, and this was also something that he, Aotianzong, could raise. If it were placed in a different sect, it would simply be impossible for them to have such huge amounts of resources to raise God's eagle. The adult God's eagle was a king-level flying beast. He was an invincible existence among the birds of the mortal world, so it was impossible for his flight to be unstable. Not just flight instability. God's eagle's body was still trembling uncontrollably. Fear. Fear. The man in white ruthlessly said, What are you doing? Suddenly, an enormous black shadow completely covered over them. The white-clothed man was immediately enraged. Who dares to fly above our heads? Are you looking to die? The azure-robed man immediately shouted as well, God's eagle, fly above them. Not only did the God's eagle not fly high up in the sky, he was also descending non-stop, because it could not withstand the pressure from the ancient giant rock at all. God's eagle also wanted to resist. It was a king's realm flying beast, but right now, he couldn't resist at all. He could only be beaten. God's eagle couldn't fly up. The white-clothed man's face darkened. He could feel the powerful pressure of the demon beast and his expression became extremely ugly. The green-clothed man immediately became furious. Who dares to be so presumptuous in front of our Aotianzong's fleet? You're looking to die, right? Aotianzong was an exceptionally strong existence that belonged to one of the top sects in the mortal world. Every single year, their clan Congress would rank as one of the top 10 sects. No one dared to fly above them. Moreover, it was a sect that they did not even know the name of. The azure-robed man naturally didn't have a good expression. Damn. Zhao Dahan grinned in anger. Damn it, is Aotianzong that awesome? Long Fei also said with a cold voice, Giant rock, hit him. Wow. The ancient giant rock let out a sharp cry. Long Fei didn't need to communicate with the idea at all. As a spiritual king, it could completely hear what humans said. A sharp scream rang out. God's eagle's body sank and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body also instantly fell down vertically and let out a few miserable shrieks. Completely out of control. Long Fei contemptuously said, Grandson, you are acting arrogantly in front of me. This is the end. The white-robed man's body shot out from God's eagle's back. Kicks in the air. The white-clothed man stepped on the air and unceasingly charged forward, directly flying parallel to the ancient giant rock. His gaze sank as he stared at Long Fei. Brat, what are you talking about? Without waiting for Long Fei to speak, Zhao Dahan stepped forward. Oh, you still dare to seek death? The corner of the man in white's eye twitched and he waved his folding fan. Boom. Hualala. Hualala. Chi condensation into a needle. Ice boundary. The folding fan was also emitting a cold, white steam. Countless incomparably sharp ice needles flew out from the folding fan. Shadowless, formless, and soundless. This was an ancient ice-type cultivator. Zhao Dahan's gaze darkened slightly as the aura on his body trembled. However, Long Fei smiled faintly and said, "Is it only this kind of power? You don't even have the qualifications for us to take action." Giant rock. The ancient giant rock responded, understood. He spread his wings. Suddenly, a door flew out. Hualala. Rumble. There was a series of explosions in the surroundings, and those invisible ice needles were shattered into fine powder. Not only that, the powerful air current directly blew the white-robed man away. Her hair was disheveled and her clothes torn. Only after flying for several dozen kilometers did he stabilize himself. He was in an incomparably sorry state. Ah! The white-clothed man let out a furious roar. He wanted to chase up, but the ancient giant rock had long flown away. The green-clothed man and a few disciples flew over. "Senior brother, who are they? What is his background? How come I have never seen it before? What sect?" The corner of the white-clothed man's mouth twitched, and flames shot out of his eyes. "Where is our god's eagle?" The azure-robed man's face sank as he said, "Dead." The white-clothed man tightly clenched his fists. His entire body was emitting a threatening aura. All of the surrounding junior brothers were crushed to the point that they couldn't even breathe. At this time, a god's eagle flew over. "Qin City, what happened just now? Where is your god's eagle?" When the white-clothed man saw the old man, he immediately said respectfully, "Great Elder, we were attacked. The god's eagle is also dead." The old man's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. "What? Who are they? You dare to attack me, Aotianzong? You're courting death." The man in white said, "I've never seen their sect's emblem before. It's a ball of fire." "A ball of fire?" The old man was also slightly puzzled. The sect uses flames to make their sect's crest. "Do you know anyone?" The white-clothed man said, "I don't recognize any of them and they are definitely not 10 sects' disciples. However, the next time I see them, I will definitely be able to recognize them." He remembered Long Fei's disdainful gaze. He felt as if he had been humiliated. The old man said solemnly, "Don't worry about that too much. Let's go to God's material ground first. If we meet with Clan Congress, we will die. You dare to behave atrociously in front of me, Aotianzong? Humph. You're courting death." The old man's temper was also extremely explosive. He didn't ask about the cause of the matter, he only knew that his disciple had been bullied. He had to take revenge. "Ha ha ha. Boss, this ancient giant rock has completely evolved, isn't it too strong?" "Yeah." The cultivation level of the white-clothed man should also be Emperor Swordsman rank, right? With a flap of its wings, it flew out in a ferocious wave. Everyone was excited. Long Fei was also excited, he thought. The Spirit King pill that the little girl gave is truly ferocious. Excited was excited. However, Long Fei realized that the strength of the disciples participating in the clan congress was beyond his expectations. He originally thought that the Sword Emperor battle team would be able to sweep through everything, but just now, any one of their disciples was at Emperor Swordsman rank, so it can be seen how strong the clan congress was. It seems like it's a tough battle. A tough battle is also good. A tough battle is also good. I can test the results of their training with 2 months of hard work. Thinking about it, Long Fei smiled slightly. Training was like reading books. Since he couldn't train to the death, he had to use it nimbly. Otherwise, it would be like reading a book to the end, only becoming a nerd in the end. It was useless. Clan Congress. Powerhouse clashed. This was the best test. Zhao Dahan's defense. Bailey Tianhai's brain. The brothers of 5 elements' 5 elements. Yun Shi's recultivation. Lu Zun's sword technique. The ancient antiquity they were in was too small, it was time to test them. God's material ground. It was located on top of a huge mountain. They reached deep into the clouds. It was originally a heavenly Tao mountain leading to the divine space, but when it was cut apart by a divine space powerhouse, the entire summit of the mountain looked as if it had been sliced through, and was even. Finally, someone built this place into a martial arts arena. Accept all kinds of competitions. Sectarian wars, life and death battles of personal grudges, and battles between nations could all be fought here. Over time, the gods' material grounds' reputation grew, and finally became a special competition venue for the clan congress. As the influence of the clan congress grew, the number of sects that joined the conference increased, and it also attracted the attention of the ancient families in the divine space. Every year, the powers in the divine space would appear in the gods' material ground. However, they did not participate in any competitions, nor did they accept any challenges. They were high and mighty. Their existence was similar to the Sky Dragon people in the One Piece world. They were the sky, the masters. In their eyes, even if you were the strongest, most influential, and most talented genius in the mortal world, you were still nothing more than an ant. They could easily crush any one of those disobedient ants. Even so, the sects of the mortal world didn't dare to resist. Not only did they not dare to resist, they wished they could kneel and lick the floor in front of the divine space. Because every warrior wanted to enter a stronger world, wanted to enter the divine space, wanted to become stronger, and wanted to attain more lifespan. He was playing around in the clan congress, showing off his powerful side as much as he wanted to get the favor of the powers in the divine space. He wanted to be brought into the divine space. In this way, he would be able to reach the heavens in one step and become a deity in the future, which was a part of the divine space. Below God's material ground was a large city. This city was called Heaven's Path City. Everything here was for the clan congress. Normally, no one would come, but once they reached the clan congress, it would be filled with a sea of people, gathering all sorts of geniuses. Welcome to Heavenly Law City. Birds cannot enter the city. Long Fei released the ancient giant rock. As long as Long Fei called out, it would immediately appear. The ancient giant rock would not fly away, because Long Fei gave it its second life. Heavenly Law City. Wow, it's so big. Phoenix's face was filled with joy as she walked into the city. She looked at all sorts of strange things, one moment pulling Long Fei to look at the food, the other pulling him to look at the food. All sorts of performances. All kinds of delicious things and interesting things happened. It was as if the entire Heavenly Law City was a busy city. Everyone, senior brother, do you want to stay here? I am at the foot of the mountain in God's material ground. I have my back against the mountain and I am facing water. This is a place to gather spirit and is especially suitable for cultivation. This is the ideal place to live in clan congress. We only need 2 hours to get to God's material ground. How is it? A waiter was trying his best to promote them. Long Fei laughed. If what you say is really true, then why do you need to waste your breath talking to me here? I'm afraid it's already full. Good things don't need to be marketed. The waiter was startled and said, Senior brother, my inn is too big and it is also a part-time job. I just want to earn some money and gamble on clan congress. Let's take a gamble. Maybe I'll be in clan congress next year. Senior brother, how is it? Have a look at my hotel. Thank you for your satisfaction. Every competition in clan congress had an outer ring. Moreover, the entire clan congress was like a huge casino. The gambling costs here were unimaginably high every year. Whether it was an individual or a sect, they would bet. There were countless stories of him getting rich and going to the peak of his life on clan congress. After strolling for a long time, everyone was tired. Long Fei said, All right, then let's go take a look. The waiter became excited and said, Follow me. Half an hour later. Basically, it was just as he said. With his back against the mountain, he faced the water. The pavilions, the gardens, and the rockery were all very unique. Furthermore, there was also a large courtyard, enough for over 100 sects to live in. Walking into the main hall, the waiter excitedly said, Shopkeeper, I've brought someone for you. The shopkeeper glanced at the symbol on Long Fei's chest and a trace of indifference appeared in his eyes. he said lightly, "there's still another side courtyard." As soon as he finished, everyone gaped. 1,300,000 holy source stones a day? Holy *T. Shopkeeper, are you robbing us? This one is even more unscrupulous than the one in the black shop. 131 per night. This was not a normal night at all. Furthermore, it was just a side yard. It was like living in a standard room for 1,300,000. How terrifying was this? However, the shopkeeper coldly said, "If you can't afford to stay here, then leave. The people I'm staying here with are all high-level sect disciples. For low-level sect disciples like you to be able to stay here is already an exception." At this time, a few disciples walked in. He was dressed extravagantly. The swords in their hands were all high-leveled immortal weapons. The first thing they did when they saw Long Fei was the sect emblem on Long Fei's clothes on his chest. Seeing that it was an inconspicuous ball of flame, a mocking expression appeared in his eyes. "If you can't, then scram. What do you think this place is? I say, storekeeper, your grade is getting lower and lower. Who are these people? Just these bumpkins, let alone the side yard, they can't even afford to stay in the dog yard." Ha ha ha. The few of them laughed at the same time. The shopkeeper hurriedly said, "Yes, yes, yes, I will kick them out right now." Long Fei's gaze tensed up. The waiter immediately lowered his voice. "Don't be rash, don't be rash. They are all disciples of the God's extreme palace, please don't be rash." He could not afford to offend him. God's extreme palace was the strongest sect in Clan Congress last year. They were practically running amok in the heavenly law city. Wherever they went, they would automatically make way for them. Seeing Long Fei's slightly angry expression, one of the disciples scornfully said, "What? You're not satisfied even after saying a few words? Kid, I'm very happy today. Get the hell away from here. This is not a place for trash sects like you to live." Long Fei's lips curled up as he sneered. He walked straight up. The disciples of the God's extreme palace were very arrogant, and the words they said were extremely unpleasant to hear. The disciples of the God's extreme palace were very arrogant, and the words they said were extremely unpleasant to hear. The words garbage sect and trash sect left Long Fei extremely displeased. Long Fei immediately walked towards the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper watched as Long Fei walked over. His cultivation level was not high, but his aura was not weak at all. Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Long Fei immediately interrupted him and asked, "May I ask if this place can be inhabited with money?" Huh? The shopkeeper was stunned. A few God's extreme palace disciples sneered, "The expenses here are not something that a person of a low-rank sect like you can afford. Even a side courtyard is too expensive. Do you still have the face to ask about anything else?" Ha ha ha. "Brat, you want to live here? I'm afraid it won't work even if you sell it, but the two girls over there are not bad. If." Just as he was about to speak, he felt a piercing cold that pierced his heart. He realized that Long Fei was staring at him coldly. The powerful chill was released from Long Fei's body, and it felt like his heart was in Long Fei's hands. He couldn't say a single word after that. Not only that, his body was trembling and cold sweat trickled down his forehead. It was extremely uncomfortable. How could this be? Why would he be scared by a kid from a low-level sect? F***CK. I am a powerhouse at the peak of the King Swordsman. Although he struggled internally, it was completely useless. Long Fei stared at him, but he could not move. He was just spouting out a few lines, but he had to bear with it. However, the Phoenix and Yun Shi are the reverse scale of Long Fei. You cannot tolerate even half a word of insult. Half a minute later, Long Fei's eyes turned as he stared at the shopkeeper and asked, "As long as I can pay for it, can I live in any kind of house?" The shopkeeper nodded and said, "Yes, yes, yes, but you don't have to either." As Long Fei spoke, he flipped his right hand and took out a large bag. "Take your best courtyard." The God's extreme palace disciple looked at the big bag that Long Fei threw to him. They looked at each other. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed. What use is this little holy source stone of yours? The best courtyard here costs 8 million holy source stones. Do you have 10,000 holy source stones in this bag? Let alone your low-level sects, even our god's extreme palace would not live in such an expensive courtyard. Use a bag to store the holy source stones? There is actually such a stupid person in this year's competition. Don't tell me there aren't any space ringers. He's probably poor. Ha ha ha. The god's extreme palace disciples ruthlessly mocked with faces full of disdain. They thought that Long Fei was just a bumpkin who didn't know anything. Long Fei did not speak either. If it was a tier 1 holy source stone, not to mention such a bag, even 100 big bags would not be enough. Such a bag of holy source stones was simply not enough. The shopkeeper looked at the large bag on the table and hesitated for a moment. Then, he went up to the bag and opened it. He said, "Your deposit is even." He swallowed the rest of his sentence back down. The Adam's apple rolled. After a heavy, dry swallow, his pupils rapidly contracted as well as they began to emit a bright light. He raised his head, and his face changed from 180 degrees to a beaming smile. In an instant, he looked as if he had seen his father, and said, "My lord, please enter. God number 1 yard." As soon as he finished, the disciples of the god's extreme palace were stunned. God number 1 yard. This was the best residence in the world. The luxury here was incomparable. Moreover, each brick and tile was unique, and the flowers and trees in the yard were all of immortal stage level or higher. They could be used however they liked, and there was also the Emperor Spirit Convergence Array, which had an extremely dense holy source aura. Some teleportation formations were directly teleported to the god's material ground. There was no need for them to walk at all. This was something that the other courtyards did not have. This was also a symbol of status. It was as if other people only walked, while you took the elevator. This was completely different. The people around Long Fei didn't know what was happening to God number 1 yard, but the disciples of God's extreme palace were clear about it. They had visited the God number 1 yard before. However, God number 1 yard's fees were also something that no sect could bear. 8 million holy source stones for 1 night. An ordinary sect wouldn't be able to earn this much in a year. Even a top sect wouldn't be able to spend so much money to stay in a courtyard. No one would be so stupid. When they heard the shopkeeper say number 1 heavenly, the disciples of God's extreme palace were all dumbfounded. "Manager, are you crazy? Is your brain filled with water? God number 1 yard? Just them. He can even afford to stay here. How many holy source stones are there in that bag? Are you sure you're awake now?" The shopkeeper had a smile on his face as he bowed deeply towards Long Fei, and said, "Masters, I apologize for my powerlessness earlier, and I beg your forgiveness." Long Fei waved his hand and said, "We are tired." The shopkeeper said, "Understood. Quickly bring everyone to rest." The waiter, who was still in a daze, took half a day to regain his senses, swallowed his saliva, and immediately brought Long Fei and the others in. Long Fei walked in front of the God's Extreme Palace disciples and lightly said, "The reason your God's Extreme Palace is not able to live here is because you are poor." Understood. A few disciples from the God's Extreme Palace frowned. Anger could be seen in their eyes as they clenched their fists tightly. A disciple stepped forward and said with a heavy voice, "Brat, why are you being so arrogant?" Not waiting for him to finish, Zhao Dahan walked forward, his shoulders moved, and ruthlessly smashed into that God's Extreme Palace disciple. "Give way, don't block me with your dog." His shoulder struck. The disciple was sent flying 3 meters away and fell to the ground with half of his arm crippled. One had to know that this disciple's cultivation was at the peak of the King Swordsman. He was sent flying just like that. Yo! Isn't God's Extreme Palace one of the top 10 great sects last year? Why is my disciple so useless? A casual touch and you're sent flying. You can't be thinking of touching porcelain, right? Zhao Dahan had a face full of schadenfreude. A God's Extreme Palace disciple wanted to step forward, but was stopped. He lightly shook his head and indicated that he should not go forward. Obviously, they could tell how strong Zhao Dahan was. They were smart. Otherwise, Zhao Dahan, who already had the urge to attack them, would have been able to knock them all to the ground all by himself. How boring. Zhao Dahan disdained. Pauper, get out of my way. Don't get knocked flying again later. Make way. What kind of top 10 sect is this? How embarrassing. Long Fei and the group felt like they were stepping on top of God's Extreme Palace disciples' heads and walking over. The disciples of the God's Extreme Palace looked extremely ugly. However, from their eyes, it was easy to see that this matter would not be let go just like that. Long Fei and his group disappeared. Long Fei and his group disappeared. One of the disciples immediately walked in front of the shopkeeper, grabbed him by the collar and lifted him into the air, scolding, "Shopkeeper, you are deliberately slapping our God's Extreme Palace's face, right? A mere bag of holy source stones has 8 million. Is able to live in the God number 1 yard." The shopkeeper wasn't worried even though he was being lifted up. He said, "Seniors, can you open the bag and take a look? You'll find out once you open it." Another disciple walked up and opened the bag. His eyes darkened and his body trembled. He was so excited that he couldn't speak. The other disciples also surrounded him. Looking at the contents of the bag, their faces turned ugly. This. Impossible. Impossible. This is the holy source essence, or, one is worth millions of holy source stones. So many holy source essence, or, there are at least 100 of them. This, how much is this worth? My God. Just what kind of sect are they? How could they be so rich? They were all shocked. The energy of one piece of refined ore was equivalent to millions of grade 1 holy source stones, while Long Fei's bag was worth over 100 million. This was an extremely large sum of money. The God's Extreme Palace disciples were all shocked. The shopkeeper put the bag away and said lightly, "I don't know what sect they are from, but I can be sure of one thing. They are not to be trifled with." The storekeeper intentionally glanced at them, wanting to say something more unfathomable, but the words stopped at the tip of his tongue. He was a businessman, and he did not want to be part of the sect's grudges. "Senior brother, I didn't expect them to have so much holy source essence ore on them. If I knew earlier, I would have killed each and every one of them." Killing intent filled his eyes. The holy source's essence was something that they desperately needed. The senior brother shook his head lightly. "We are not their match. If we were to fight just now, we would be at a disadvantage." Zhao Dahan's gentle bump explained everything. Several disciples were stunned. The senior brother looked in the direction where Long Fei disappeared to, secretly clenching his fists. He said solemnly, "This matter will not end like this. Let's go to Master." Flinging his sleeves, he walked to the other side in large strides. Comparing financial resources, the wealth that Long Fei possessed might not even be comparable to that of all the sects combined. Show off your might in front of him. High and mighty. Rich big shot. A bag of holy source essence or immediately extinguished their flames. No matter how arrogant he was, it was useless. Using money to slap his face. Long Fei possessed a vain mine of the holy source, so the holy source stones were not even worth mentioning to him right now. "Master, they are the disciples of the God's Extreme Palace. The way the God's Extreme Palace acts is extremely ruthless and is an evil sect. You have to be more careful these few days, they will not lose out." The waiter reminded them. Zhao Dahan rubbed his nose, and said, "I'm afraid that he would kill me. If he comes, I want him to lie down and go out." Long Fei said, "Low profile, low profile." Long Fei said to the waiter, "My way of doing things is, if people do not offend me, I will not offend them. If they offend me, kill them all." Long Fei said with a faint smile. His expression was like that of a death god. The waiter's mind trembled slightly. After walking through a few corridors, the waiter bowed and said, "We have arrived at God number 1 yard. A bronze door. A few auspicious beasts were carved on the bronze door. The entrance was also filled with inscriptions for formations. Long Fei said, "This courtyard even has an array formation?" The waiter immediately said, "Yes, this is a small defensive formation. Aside from your own people, it will be activated the moment you enter the courtyard. This kind of defensive array is only standard. There are many unexpected things in the courtyard, This is also my first time coming to the God number 1 yard. It's all thanks to you, my lords. Bailey Tianhai stepped forward to sense the situation, then said, a royal level formation. The waiter was startled. He looked at Bailey Tianhai and said with admiration, Master has good eyesight, this is indeed a royal level high-level formation. Not waiting for him to finish, Bailey Tianhai said indifferently, this kind of formation can deal with normal powerhouse, but if I meet a powerhouse with a Emperor Swordsman rank, it would be useless. The waiter's expression changed. He was a little embarrassed and said, strongest Emperor Swordsman is still a minority after all, and there aren't many Emperor stage grandmasters in the entire ancient world, much less in the mortal world. Bailey Tianhai laughed, and did not say a word. In the yard. Inside was indeed luxurious, all the flowers, plants and trees that were placed outside were treasures, things that were of immortal stage grade or higher. The carp reared in the pond also began to glow with a golden light, appearing exceptionally dazzling. House design is also first class, according to the gossip trip. The courtyard was very large, and there were more than 20 rooms within it. There were about 10 people living there, but it was very spacious. Sir, for breakfast and dinner, we specialize in the shop. If you need anything, just ring the bell at the front door. Someone will be here within a minute. Long Fei nodded and asked, this is your most expensive courtyard, I would like to know where God's Extreme Palace lives. The waiter said, God's Extreme Palace is staying in the number 1 room with word Huang. It's about 3 miles away from here. Long Fei asked, what about the other courtyards? The waiter said, logically speaking, we cannot reveal customer information, but you are the owner of the God number 1 yard, I can tell you anything you want to know. We have 4 main courtyards, the Sky and Earth Profound Yellow, the number 1 room with word Huang, and the number 1 Earth Profound Sect. The Myriad Profound Sect is the sect that ranked 4th in Clan Congress last year. As for the Dark God Tribe, they are a special existence. They did not send anyone to join the Clan Congress last year. Bailey Tianhai said, Dark God Tribe is an assassination organization, and also the strongest assassination organization in ancient world. Assassin organization? Long Fei could not help but think of the people from the Night Clan. I wonder how they are doing in the Universal Realm. Huff. Thinking about Universal Realm's brothers and women, Long Fei could not help but clench his fists tightly in his heart. So much time had passed. He had entered the ancient world without even seeing the face of the Emperor Xian, let alone taking revenge. He felt extremely upset. Emperor Xian. Long Fei secretly tensed up. The waiter said, Sir, please rest first. We'll serve dinner later. After saying that, he carefully left the courtyard. He closed the courtyard door. The waiter did not go anywhere else, but instead went to Earth Hall 1. You're here. Reporting to the Lord, they are already here. Very good. You keep an eye on them. The waiter asked, Master, when do we make our move? There seems to be a mistake with the information. Their cultivations are even stronger than the ones in the records. I feel that their cultivations are all above the Emperor Realm. The Emperor Realm? Hee. Even if he is at the peak of the Emperor Realm, he will still die this time. A bag of holy source essence or? A bag of holy source essence or? Did you see it clearly? In number 1 room with word Huang, an old man suddenly jumped up from his seat, his eyes opened wide as a ray of light shone out, provoking him with the holy source essence or holy source stones were useful for ordinary cultivators. However, to the powerhouse of the Emperor Swordsman rank, the energy contained in the holy source stone was too little, it was not even enough for them to use. On the other hand, the holy source's essence was different. One was worth more than 1 million, which was exactly what the strongest Emperor Swordsman needed. It was a cultivation saint that could be encountered by luck but not sought after. It was also because of this that Dongfang Hao was so excited. He did not have much interest in one piece of holy source essence, but a bag of it. This number was a bit scary. Master, we can see them very clearly. It really is a bag, there must be at least 100 of them. How could we dare to lie to you? A disciple said. Dongfang Hao became excited and said, even our God's Extreme Palace would not be able to take out so many of the hundreds of holy source's essence mines in one go. What's more, it's an unknown sect. The only possibility is. The corner of Dongfang Hao's mouth lifted slightly, and gave a cold laugh. He continued to speak, unless they discover the holy source veins. Holy source vein? The legendary holy source pulse or? Master, is there really such a thing? Didn't they say that the holy source vein mine doesn't exist? Is it just a legendary divine object? That might not be true. Master, none of them are weak, and fifth junior brother is also at the peak of the king swordsman, but was sent flying, and that person's cultivation is at least at the emperor swordsman rank. Hearing his words, Dongfang Hao became even more certain that they had found the holy source veins. The emperor swordsman rank was extremely difficult to cultivate. Every single powerhouse who had reached the emperor swordsman rank would have to spend hundreds of years to reach it. For someone to reach the emperor swordsman rank at such a young age, unless they were a peerless genius, it was definitely a great opportunity. One person was a great opportunity. What was that group of people? This was definitely the holy source vein mine. Dongfang Hao smiled faintly, and said, immediately investigate the sect they belong to. Don't alert the enemy, and don't spread the news about the holy source's essence mine. Yes, sir. All of the disciples let out a heavy sound. Reversal of the situation. Gossip for the 5 elements. Heaven and earth formation. Wu Tu specialized in inscriptions. The first thing he did when he entered the courtyard was to change the courtyard's defense formation. The clan Congress were as numerous as the clouds, so the emperor-level formations were simply not enough. No matter how strong a emperor strongman was, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. In a short half an hour, Wu Tu finished setting up the array formation. It looked like it was just a defensive array, but it was actually a defensive array. Big brother, the formation is ready. Ordinary emperor strongman wouldn't be able to enter. Long Fei nodded his head and said, there is one more guarantee, and one more safety. This is the clan Congress, and more than half of the powerhouse in the mortal world are here. The array's layout was also arranged by Long Fei. God's material ground, clan Congress. There were many things that could happen before the competition. It seemed as if they were living in peace, but in reality, it was just waves surging in the dark. It was normal for people to die a little. Furthermore, there are no laws here, and whoever is stronger is the king. Whoever is strong is the law. Long Fei was not afraid of trouble, but he was afraid of trouble. Not long after, the waiter had someone bring him a sumptuous meal. He did not notice any changes when he entered the courtyard, so he did not notice the addition of a formation array. Wu Tu's engraving formation was already something that no ordinary person would be able to detect. The dinner dishes were all things that had never been eaten before, and all of them had a rich aura of holy sauce. The waiter said, "Sir, there's an auction tonight in the heavenly Dao City. This is the invitation card." As he spoke, he took out a golden invitation card. The waiter said, "This is a gift from our big boss. I hope that everyone can take a look." Long Fei nodded and said, "Leave it here." The waiter placed both hands on the table and left the yard. When the waiter left the courtyard, the surrounding people were no longer calm. Auction? I've never seen it before. Wow, these invitation cards are all made of gold. Boss, are we going to take a look tonight? Brothers of 5 elements became excited one by one. Long Fei looked at the Phoenix. Phoenix giggled and said, "My darling, the auction must be very lively. I want to take a look." Long Fei said, "Then let's go take a look." "Did you all bring money?" The brothers of 5 elements said, "We only brought a single space ring's holy source essence or with us when we came. It's for cultivation, I don't know what we can buy it for it." A space ring's holy source essence. This was defying the heavens' will. Long Fei was powerless to retort, and said, "All of you are upstart, just buy whatever you like at night, since you guys are all rich." Heh heh. Brothers of 5 elements laughed foolishly. Bailey Tianhai said, "The entire heavenly Dao City is a mess, is there any danger?" Zhao Dahan laughed. "The one in danger should be someone else, right? With our current strength, who would dare to offend us?" Other than Long Fei, all of them were Emperor Swordsman rank. If not the most powerful one, it would at least be enough to scare a lot of people to death. After Zhao Dehan finished speaking, everyone started laughing. The Emperor Swordsman rank was a bit inflated, but Long Fei did not say anything. They indeed had the capital to inflate. Lu Xun said, "I will cultivate at home, you can go." Long Fei replied, "All right." After dinner, Long Fei led a group of people to the Heavenly Law auction. This auction was also jointly held by a few large merchant guilds behind the scenes. It was dedicated to the clan congress. All of them were at least immortal grade. Disciples that could participate in the clan congress were all of high cultivation, and were important people in the sect. Night fell. The street did not quiet down because of the night. Instead, it became even more lively. The head moved, bustling with noise and excitement. Phoenix was like a happy little rabbit, jumping left and right, playing exceptionally happily. After playing for a while, they arrived at the Heavenly Law auction. The venue was a huge beast fighting ring. It had been temporarily converted into an auction house in order to allow more people to enter the venue and bid. However, the price of a ticket wasn't cheap either. One ticket cost 3,000 spirit stones, and the price of a ticket alone was already in the tens of millions. However, the 3,000 spirit stones he had brought here was not a big deal. One ticket was incredibly difficult to obtain. If you have an invitation, please take it out. There's no need to queue up without an invitation. Don't waste everyone's time, the auction will start in half an hour. So many people. She was slightly taken aback. Long Fei asked, "Are there not that many people in the divine space?" She said, "No one will be appearing at the auction of the divine space at all. It will be spread out over 108,000 kilometers away. However, that atmosphere is not as good as this." The world of the powerhouse was naturally different. Long Fei took out the invitation, and when the guard saw that it was a golden invitation, his expression immediately changed, and personally led Long Fei and the group inside. Lord, they entered the venue. Lord, they entered the venue. At another part of the auction venue, a man from Dark God tribe was bowing behind a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man said lightly, "Got it. Don't be in such a hurry to make a move. Let's take a look first. Seems like God's extreme palace's Dongfang Hao has his eyes on him too." The man replied, "Dongfang Hao should be thinking about money." The middle-aged man said, "Then let Dongfang Hao go first." The man said, "Understood." Xianming Abyss was not in a hurry to make a move. Long Fei was already in his territory. He could make a move at any time and pinch Long Fei to death at any time, but he did not. A goal that could cause the Dark God tribe to fail twice, he wanted to have some fun. He was the one who arranged for Long Fei to be able to enter the God number 1 yard. Right now, Long Fei's every move was being monitored by him, so he was not in a hurry at all. Xianming Abyss closed his notebook. Long Fei? I seem to have seen this name somewhere before. What Xianming Abyss was looking at just now was Long Fei's detailed information. He seemed to have heard this name somewhere before, but he could not recall where it came from. Where exactly is it? Or is it to have the same name? Long Fei. After thinking for a while, Xianming Abyss still couldn't recall anything. He did not give it much thought. In any case, he was a dying man. It was good to see him, it was good to hear about him. In the end, he would still die. Master, they went to the auction. Only one person from God number 1 yard remains. After Long Fei entered the auction place, the disciples of the God's extreme palace immediately wanted to report to him. At this moment, Dongfang Hao also had information on Long Fei, but his information was not that detailed, and he only knew that Long Fei's sect was the ancient antiquity. For a middle-level sect to take out so many holy source essence mines at once, I wouldn't believe it even if I didn't discover the vein mine. Dongfang Hao further confirmed. Master, what should we do? Dongfang Hao smiled slightly and said, the auction will be going on for 4 hours. For 4 hours. Heh. A greedy look appeared in his eyes. Someone, come. Dongfang Hao said indifferently. Several disciples immediately entered the room. Dongfang Hao said, we will take over the God number 1 yard and wait for them inside. Yes, sir. The 4 disciples revealed excited expressions. After being slapped in the face by Long Fei and the others, they had already wanted to get back at them, but now that their master had spoken, they couldn't wait at all. They immediately charged towards the god number 1 yard. At the auction venue. A sea of people. Long Fei had been to many auction places before, but the place in front of him was indeed a little shocking. However, they were golden invitation cards, and their identities were different. They were also located in a private room. An auctioneer walked onto the stage. The audience immediately quieted down. The auctioneer cleared his throat and said, "The annual clan congress is going to start tomorrow and every disciple wants to get good results. As the saying goes, a good horse goes with a good saddle. Cultivation is very important, but equipment is also important." Is that so? It is a competition of cultivation techniques, it is a competition of the weapons in your hands, the armor you are wearing. It is small, but it is possible to determine the outcome of the auction the day after tomorrow clan congress, once a year. The alliance auction is also once a year. If you like something, don't be soft-hearted. If you miss it, you might miss it for a lifetime. Alright, don't say too much. This is the first item for today. 9 Supremes Divine Furnace. It's a alchemy furnace, which can increase the success rate by 15%, and the rate of success by 10%, respectively. More importantly, it has a 5% chance of becoming a holy plea. In other words, a royal-grade alchemy master has a 5% chance of refining a holy plea. The starting price is 5 million, so the bid increase must not be lower than 500,000. Begin. As soon as he finished, the crowd below the stage immediately began to bid wildly. Long Fei said indifferently, "Small top quality." However, it seems like this item does not only have this little bit of stats. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the 9 Supremes Divine Furnace on the stage. Phoenix giggled and said, "My darling has good eyesight. There is another power within this divine furnace. As long as Alchemy Master can activate the furnace to the second stage, the attribute will double." Long Fei trembled slightly. "That's a holy artifact." Wu Hua walked over and said, "Boss, do you want to buy it?" Long Fei said, "Whatever you decide." Hearing Long Fei say that, Wu Hua immediately walked over to the window and raised his sign. As for the auctioneer with the golden invitation card, he naturally had to take extra care of it. He immediately said, "Number 7, please quote a price." The room Long Fei was in was room number 7. Wu Hua directly said, 50 million. As soon as he finished, the audience fell silent. They all looked at Wu Hua in a daze. Even the auctioneer was a bit confused. He did not seem to understand and asked, More, how much more?" Wu Hua said again, 50 million. The auctioneer shuddered and said, 50 million. I've already bid 50 million. Is there anyone else with a higher price than this? The entire place was silent. 50 million holy source stones to buy a alchemy furnace? F***CK. Was it necessary? It was just a pill furnace. Although its attributes were not bad, it was at most used for alchemy. Could it be that it could be used as a weapon? 50 million going once. 50 million twice. 50 million going thrice. Deal. The auctioneer knocked on the hammer. He was very excited to see the first item being auctioned off at such a high price. Just this item alone, his bounty would not be lower than 1 million. Wu Hua giggled and said, "Boss, did you earn it?" Long Fei said, "It's not a loss. 50 million to buy a piece of immortal equipment was a bit of a loss. If it was a holy artifact, then he had earned it." The auctioneer said excitedly, "I didn't expect the first item would be sold for such a high price. I'm a little excited." Alright. The second item. Li Wang Zhu. It is a type of pearl that can hide attributes. It can hide from water, fire, and water. Encountering a strong attack can dissolve 30% of the power. It's a good thing for martial arts duels. The starting price is 8 million, you can't lower it to 500,000 each time, starting now. Zhao Dehan picked up his bidding card. Before anyone else could bid, he shouted, 50 million. The audience fell silent once again. Many people silently put down the words. A single bid was worth 50 million yuan. Who the hell would be willing to accept such a price? Zhao Dehan was confused. Long Fei also faintly smiled. There was no shortage of money. This time, they brought along a lot of holy source essence stones used for cultivation. Tens of millions. To them, a few 100 million holy source stones was nothing more than a drop in the bucket. Money? They have no idea. Every time the auctioneer called out a bid, it would immediately be bought by Long Fei and the rest. The entire auction house was completely contracted by Long Fei and the others. Everyone watched them. All of them were dumbfounded. Just how much money was this? Yuan Spirit Sky Opening Sword, starting bidding for 15 million holy source stones, increasing the bid by no less than 1 million each time, starting now. Yuan Spirit Sky Opening Sword, starting bidding for 15 million holy source stones, increasing the bid by no less than 1 million each time, starting now. 8 million. As soon as he finished, Long Fei's side immediately called out a price. The audience was once again calm. What was this called? It was over before it had even begun. Are you even letting me live? After a few consecutive rounds, everything had been contracted by Long Fei and the others. This was an auction. This was a contract auction. Someone could not sit still any longer and said, "Buying anything is a high price. What are you guys trying to do? Who the hell are you? Exactly. Which sect are you from? I've seen countless auctions, but I've never seen one like this. Are they rich or are they hype?" Many people were displeased with what Long Fei had done. Zhao Dehan walked out, seeing everyone's displeasure. He laughed and said, "I'm just rich. What can you guys do to me? You don't like it? I'm not in a good mood to bid with us." He was rich, a tycoon. It's to give you all no chance to bid. Kid, don't be so arrogant. An old man said heavily. Zhao Dehan placed both hands on his waist, laughed, and said, "This old man is this arrogant. What's wrong? I asked you what was wrong. Bite me. Your father is rich and you still won't let the old man compete for it. Very, very arrogant." Long Fei laughed faintly. This was what a person should do. If you pretend to be weak when you're strong, then what's the point in living on? If you should be arrogant, then you must be. Zhao Dehan's words immediately made those people speechless. Indeed. This was an auction, the highest bidder had it. You don't like it? He was not happy to offer a higher price. The auctioneer also repeatedly confirmed whether Long Fei and the others had paid them. However, it was clear from every single transaction that the opportunity was to pay as soon as the item was bought, without delaying a single cent. With this, there was no reason for the auction to stop Long Fei and the others from bidding. The auctioneer said, "Everyone, please calm your anger. The auction rules are fixed at the highest price. This is an unchanging law. I, as a small auctioneer, can't do anything about it. All I can say is, Master in room number 7, can you give them a little chance, even if it's a bid? Give them a little chance." Zhao Dehan was unwilling, and said, "All right, the next thing I want you guys to call out the price." The auctioneer immediately waved his hand, signaling for the item to be brought up, and said, "This is a piece of armor, it can." Slightly described. The starting price is 2 million holy source stones. Begin the bidding. No one bid. And instead, everyone was looking at the private box on Long Fei's side. The auctioneer coughed and said, "Begin the bidding." A man carefully raised his sign and said, 21 million. 22 million. 24 million. If someone took the lead, then someone else would follow and bid. But the amount was not much each time. Zhao Dehan was an impatient person, so he felt extremely displeased when he saw them raise the price by 1 million. He shouted loudly, "How long will 1 million go? 80 million. With just the word 80 million foot, he instantly killed the entire audience. Silence again. Those who had just bid had the urge to die. Were their feelings just for show? He let them bounce around for a bit, and then with a slap, he made them stop. Many people were unhappy. They were all secretly investigating the identity of room number 7. However, nothing, be it ancient antiquity, or the status of Long Fei and the others, They were all people that no one would remember in the great sect tide of ancient world. People would only remember the powerhouse. No one would remember a mediocre person. Ancient Antiquity's strength was not up on stage at all. He could not even enter the top 100 in the sect. Who would remember a sect like this? Thus, even if Long Fei and the others had sect tags on them, no one would know what sect they were from. However, this made the senior sects very unhappy. Fire Abyss Wheel. A fire element cultivator's weapon. This is a semi-artifact. It was created with hellfire. It's a rare weapon. The starting price is 50 million. Let's begin the bidding. The auction continued. Wu Hu became excited. This weapon was entirely made for me. Immediately, he walked out, his gaze sweeping across the crowd and said, "Does anyone have a bid? If there's anyone willing to bid, you guys can go ahead." Everyone was silent. Anyone who bid would serve as a foil for Wu Hua, and would be played for a fool. Naturally, he wasn't willing to bid first. Wu Hua giggled and said, "Then I'll bid 51 million. The auctioneer was in no hurry. 5 million and 1 million, is there anything higher than this? 51 million is like buying a semi-artifact. Humph, aren't you thinking too much? 55 million. Someone began to bid. Then, Wu Hua suddenly said, 100 million. The entire audience was stunned. How could there be such a bid? He was really playing with them. An old man could no longer sit still. His aura was released, and with a heavy sound, he asked, "Which sect are you disciples from?" Flames burst from his body. Clearly, he was also a fire cultivator. Wu Hua said, "We will just bid. What sect are you asking about? If you want to bid, then hurry up. Don't waste my time." He completely ignored the old man. Too savage. The old man was infuriated. The pressure from his body suddenly stirred. Boom. A flame pressure that could be seen with the naked eye pounced towards Wu Hua like a giant python, instantly engulfing him. Everyone was shocked. "All right. Swallow him. Let's see how he can still act so arrogantly then. Kill him." They were all cheering. Long Fei and the others caused public outrage. Those who wanted to buy things hated Long Fei and the others to death. The old man had come for the fire yuan wheel tonight, but he had only prepared 80 million. This was more than enough money from before. However, the moment he shouted out a price, he was instantly killed. How could he endure the anger in his heart? Besides, he was still a young boy. The might of the fire python moved, instantly making Wu Hua kneel on the ground. Everyone was also waiting for Wu Hua to embarrass himself. However, Wu Hua stood in place motionlessly as if he did not sense the approaching danger at all. He had no intention to resist at all. The old man's lips curled up into a sneer of disdain. "Kneel." This kind of reaction power couldn't withstand his fire python's power at all. He was secretly pleased with himself. However, when his fire python's pressure heavily engulfed Wu Hua, the flaming aura had completely disappeared. Wu Hua did not move at all. The old man's might was like the air, it pounced onto Wu Hua and disappeared. What a joke! Was the 5 elements fire a useless name? He is a fire grandmaster. Was there even a need to take a look at the flames attacking Wu Hua? Everyone was stunned. The old man trembled as he looked at Wu Hua in a daze. Wu Hua said indifferently, "What, do you want to fight?" "What, you want to fight? What, you want to fight?" Wu Hua suddenly said. Moreover, he locked his gaze onto the old man. The old man's heart trembled as he heavily swallowed his saliva. It was also at this time. Zhao Dahan brought a large group of people and rushed out of the private box, and loudly shouted, "Who wants to fight? Who is it?" As they spoke, all eyes were on the old man. Originally, Wu Hua's gaze was unbearable for his mind and spirit, and even Zhao Dahan's and the others' gaze contained a sense of pressure. This time, his mind felt like it was about to break. He leapt forward and knelt on the ground, kowtowing as he said, "My lords, please spare me. I was wrong. My lords, please spare me." The entire audience was in an uproar. Wasn't this reversal too overwhelming? Just a moment ago, he had been oppressing her with his aura, but now he was kneeling on the ground. However, no one helped him. They all had an expression of watching a show. However, more and more people noticed Zhao Dehan's group. In Box 1, those who are at the peak of the King Swordsman are actually kneeling on the ground. The cultivation of these people are truly terrifying. Heh! They are all Emperor Swordsman rank, how can they not be terrifying? What sect is this? All of them were Emperor Swordsman rank S. Were they disciples of 10 sects? But none of the 10 sects S used fire as their sect's emblem. The newly emerged sect this year? It's even more impossible for a new sect to have such strength. Be it his wealth or cultivation, he is a top existence. Do you have any information on them now? Knowing yourself and knowing your enemy, you will be victorious. With regards to the sudden appearance of such a group of strongest Emperor Swordsman S, every sect would pay special attention to them and possess such abundant financial resources. It was hard not to notice. Junior brother, go invite them to come over and take a seat. A young man leaning on an armchair said lightly. The man was dressed in a black robe, and there was a towering blood sword embroidered on his chest. This was the symbol of the Sword Sky sect. Sword Sky sect was also the strongest sect in the mortal world. It was also the sect that had the most disciples entering the divine space. Just last year alone, 3 disciples from the clan congress were selected by the forces of the divine space and directly entered the divine space. Sword Sky sect was like a giant starship in the mortal world. Every single disciple that participated in the clan congress were all exceptional geniuses with cultivation above Emperor Swordsman rank and outstanding talents. Every year, they would have several disciples capable of entering the divine space. In the Sword Sky sect, everyone feared and respected him. Every sect wanted to curry favor with them, and as long as they were related to Sword Sky sect, it would be like hugging a leg. Invite them. Senior brother, is it necessary? They are just a bunch of country bumpkins who have never seen the world. A man said in disdain. The man on the teacher's chair said, call me over to see him first, and then we'll talk. There's something I need at this auction. This was his true goal. Then junior brother stopped nagging and said, okay, I will go call him over. Finished speaking, he walked out of the private room number 7. After Wu Hua obtained the Fire Abyss wheel, he controlled it for a bit. He felt that this wheel was perfectly compatible with his own, and his own strength had increased by a lot. Semi-artifact are powerful indeed. Wu Hua became excited. Long Fei said, it's good that you like it, I do not have the time to forge weapons for you, if not I would have made it myself. The main reason was that the materials were extremely hard to find. Otherwise, Long Fei would have forged some weapons and equipment for them in the North Peak. Wu Hua said, boss, this is enough for me. Heh. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Who is it? It can't be people from the auction house, right? F***ck. Don't tell me you don't want us bidding. That won't do. I haven't bought what I need yet. Everyone began to discuss. Yunshi stepped forward to open the door. The moment he opened the door, the Sword Sky sect disciple saw Yunshi. He was stunned and couldn't help but exclaim, what a beautiful girl. Just with this sentence, Yunshi's pupils tightened. The Sword Sky sect disciple realized that his words were a little frivolous and immediately explained, I don't have any other intentions, I just think you're too beautiful. If this was in the Sword Sky sect, he wouldn't have hesitated to throw Yunshi onto the ground with one leap. However, Yunshi was different. She was completely different from other girls. She had the unique temperament of a goddess, just like a celestial sister. Using force wasn't good. Yunshi said coldly, who are you? What are you doing here? Bailey Tianhai looked at the sect emblem on the man's chest and spoke to Long Fei in a low voice, Sword Sky sect, the #1 sect in ancient world. Every year, there will be a few disciples selected by the powers of the divine space. Long Fei nodded slightly. The Sword Sky sect directly walked into the private room, he straightened his clothes, and the blood sword on his chest was especially conspicuous. He said indifferently, which one of you is the leader here? Long Fei said, I am. The Sword Sky sect said, My senior brother wants you to go over. There is something that we need you to discuss. Long Fei said, there's something we need to discuss. Since there's something you need to discuss, let your senior brother come over to discuss it. The first sentence made Yun Shi unhappy, and it made Long Fei even more unhappy. Moreover, he walked in without even allowing him to in, which showed that he did not place Long Fei and the others in his eyes. The man's pupils constricted and his voice became ice-cold. My senior brother wants you to go over because she thinks highly of you. Others do not have the qualifications to be invited by my senior brother. Brat, it's your honor to be invited by the Sword Sky sect, understand? His aura was a level higher than others. Long Fei's mouth hooked up, and laughed. Sword Sky sect? Have you heard of it? Never heard of it. What base Sky sect? Is it a sword or a slut? Lowly Sky sect. A sect that is even more lowly than the heavens. Ha ha ha. Zhao Dahan jeered. The corner of the man's eyes twitched a few times as he said gloomily, Brat, are you courting death? As soon as he finished, Zhao Dahan and the rest immediately stood up, taking out their weapons, all of them staring at the man like they were tigers about to devour a man. His aura completely crushed the man. As long as the man made a move, he would immediately lie on the ground and turn into a dead dog. The man could also sense the aura of the crowd. Very strong. Now, he finally understood why that old man couldn't withstand the pressure and knelt on the ground. His heart was in great pain as well. Long Fei said indifferently, if you have something to discuss, then leave it to him. Also, don't reveal a look of superiority, and don't tell me you're talking about Sword Sky sect, understand? His tone was calm, but it was a clear sign of killing intent. The man's forehead dripped with cold sweat, and the center of his hand was also drenched with cold sweat. Compared to the coercion of Zhao Dahan and the others, the killing intent that was emitted from Long Fei's body made him feel even worse. Pa. Well said. There's a man standing at the door. Just like the man in the room, there's a soaring blood sword embroidered on his clothes. Senior brother, why are you here? A young man stood at the door. He looked like a demon. With a white face and fox eyes, he looked like an evolved human fox. Her face was devilishly charming. The man walked into the room. A faint divine light rippled under his feet as a dark blood lotus rose in that instant. In the room, the aura and pressure coming from Zhao Dahan and the others had all disappeared. It suddenly disappeared. Even they themselves could not control it. This was a kick. This power. It could be said that it was completely overwhelming Zhao Dahan and the others. Long Fei's pupils tightened. Zhao Dahan and the others looked at each other. Their eyebrows twitched and they wanted to release even more power, but Long Fei shook his head to stop them. Because, even if they used their strongest strength, they would still not be a match for this Fox-Eye Man. Fox-Eye Man also reprimanded him, saying, I asked you to hire someone, not to show off. Stand aside. Fox-Eye Man spoke in a deep voice. That man honestly stood aside. Fox-Eye Man looked at Long Fei and said, this junior of mine is reckless, please forgive me. Long Fei said, if you have something to say, say it. Long Fei did not want to waste his saliva courteously. Moreover, from the moment he entered, Long Fei had already been unhappy with him. He's more handsome than me, can he feel good? Furthermore, the charm power on his body made him extremely feminine. How could this kind of person be good? Fox-Eye Man said, I am the great senior brother of the Sword Sky sect. Sword sect. I came here today because I want to get to know my brothers. I have something that I like about this auction, please do not bid. Of course. This help isn't for nothing. Just consider it as me owing you all a favor. I will repay you all a favor during the competition in Clan Congress. Long Fei wanted to reject her. Fox-Eye Man was the first to speak. Don't be in a hurry to refuse, this favor of mine can be considered as a life. What did that mean? This meant that on the stage of the Clan Congress, as long as he met Long Fei, he would spare the lives of everyone on Long Fei's side. His voice was calm, but the meaning behind his words were threatening. Moreover, it was a kind of lofty threat. Long Fei's mouth hooked into a faint smile, and said, "Threatened me?" Fox Eye Man said, "I can't do anything about the threat, I'm just telling you the truth. Your cultivations aren't weak, but in my eyes, you're no different from ants." Easily stated. The arrogant batch. The man beside him also sneered in contempt. Long Fei was very unhappy. The eyes of Zhao Dahan and the others were all filled with fury. As long as Long Fei gave the order, they would immediately charge at him. However, Long Fei did not say anything, but asked, "I want to know, what are you bidding for? If I don't bid, won't others do the same?" Fox Eye Man said indifferently, "Don't worry, as long as I bid, no one would dare to bid. As for the items, a single building has its name of myriad gods. This is the most important treasure in this auction." Phoenix, who was silently eating the candy at the side, suddenly stopped when she heard the two words God's Pavilion, and she turned to look at Fox Eye Man. The man was also the first to see Phoenix. His heart tightened. What a beautiful young woman, and the blood vein in her body. So powerful. God blood. Zhong Xian was taken aback. Long Fei asked, "God's Pavilion? I'll remember." Fox Eye Man smiled in satisfaction, and said, "Very good." Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Long Fei laughed, "I will bid then. Don't worry, you definitely won't get this item." After Long Fei finished speaking, the Fox Eye Man's pupils suddenly shrank. It turned into a dark red light. In an instant, it surged into Long Fei's mind. Long Fei sat on the chair, unmoving. Just as Fox Eye Man wanted to crush Long Fei's mind, Long Fei's pupils also moved slightly. In that instant, Holy Dragon Emperor opened his eyes slightly. Boom! The pressure coming from the Fox Eye Man on Long Fei's mind instantly shattered. Fox Eye Man's body sank slightly as he staggered back half a step. His aura churned and he forcefully suppressed it. Zhong Xian narrowed his eyes. Fox Eye Man stared coldly at Long Fei, and said, "Are you really not giving me any face?" Long Fei shrugged and said, "Everyone wants good things, moreover. Who are you? Do I know you? Why should I give you face?" He kept saying those words with a cold sneer on his face. Arrogant. Insolent in front of Long Fei? "I won't kill you with a single slap." Fox Eye Man said, "Do you know the outcome of offending me? The strength of the Sword Sky Sect is not something that you people can compare with. As long as I say it, all of you in Clan Congress will die on the stage. You don't want your entire army to be annihilated, do you?" The power of the Sword Sky Sect was enormous. As long as he responded loudly, it could be said that Long Fei's ancient antiquity would become the target of public criticism. However, Long Fei had never been one to submit. Long Fei laughed, "I like challenging people with all kinds of difficulties. Don't hesitate to come from Sword Sky Sect. Let's see who will be the one to be wiped out. You don't have a good ending for offending you. Hee hee. If you offend me, you won't be able to get off the stage. Give you face. You're one of them." Fox Eye Man's face was extremely ugly. His fists were clenched tightly as he stared at Long Fei. Long Fei said lightly, "Why are you still staying here? Shall I offer you tea?" Zhao Dahan directly said, "Scram." Fox Eye Man laughed coldly and said, "Brat, remember what you said just now. When the time comes, I will make you regret coming to this world." Finished. He flung his sleeves heavily and walked out of the private room. Huff! The instant Fox Eye Man walked out of the private room, Long Fei let out a heavy exhale, and cold sweat dripped down his forehead. He had felt an incomparably strong pressure a moment ago. If he did not have the power of the ancient dragon body, he would have been crushed by Fox Eye Man. This guy was too strong. Bailey Tianhai said, "I'm afraid his cultivation has reached the Emperor Swordsman realm. So young, this level. He's too strong. Emperor Swordsman? Monster, right? No wonder his aura was instantly crushed the moment he set foot inside. This fellow is too strong, and what is his life Emperor sword? Not yet. Is it really okay for us to offend the Sword Sky Sect like this? What's there to be afraid of? He did not use the Emperor's sword force, and I also did not use my power of life. Zhao Dahan had never been someone to be afraid of. Long Fei said, "Now do you know how terrifying the clan congresses are? There is still one more day before I can become stronger." Long Fei was secretly nervous. "I also need to break through the Emperor Swordsman rank as soon as possible. If I did not have the ancient dragon body's power, I would not be his match." At this moment, the phoenix suddenly shouted, "My darling, if God's Pavilion wants to buy it, it's a treasure." If others said it was a treasure, then it might not necessarily be a treasure to Long Fei, but if the phoenix said it was a treasure, then it must be a treasure. If others said it was a treasure, then it might not necessarily be a treasure to Long Fei, but if the phoenix said it was a treasure, then it must be a treasure. And it was definitely a supreme treasure. What was Phoenix's identity? What hadn't she seen? Anything in one's body could be an existence in the mortal world that couldn't be measured by its value. If she said it was a treasure, then it must be very powerful. She said softly, "God's Pavilion, I seem to have heard of it somewhere before." Long Fei said, "So that means we must take him down?" Zhao Dahan said, "Of course we will take him down. Of course I wouldn't be happy with that man filled with evil qi. Give him face. Who does he think he is?" Wu Hua also said, "That's right. And you still said the clan congress wanted to kill us? F***K. We were scared of him. Is the Sword Sky sect that great? Last year, it was us who did not participate in the clan congress's competition. This year, we have come. On the stage, we will definitely trample all over him, the Sword Sky sect." All of them were extremely aggressive, as if they were invincible in this world. Long Fei said in a bland voice, "Don't blame me for striking you guys down. Even if all of you were to come together, you would not be his match. If we meet on the stage, there is no need to resist and we can just admit defeat." He didn't want to discourage them, but he was afraid they might lose their lives. The aura emitted from Fox Eye Man's body was extremely strong. If he was strong, then he had to admit. Blind arrogance would only cost his life. Everyone's expression turned gloomy. Long Fei's few sentences had hit them so hard that their bodies were covered in cuts and bruises. Long Fei said, "Do you know that powerhouse is as common as the clouds? This time round, I am not asking you to test how high your rankings are. After Clan Congress, there will be one more time to enter the Divine Space Selection. This is what you guys need to be more concerned about. If Clan Congress can get a good rank, then so be it. If he can't, then that's fine too, but the important thing is to enter the Divine Space. With their cultivation, entering the top 20 shouldn't be a problem." This rank was enough to make ancient antiquity famous. The Grand Elder would definitely be satisfied. After Clan Congress was the selection of the Divine Space. This was the only chance for a person. The selection of the Divine Space's disciples was extremely harsh. A person would only have this one chance in their entire life. If they were eliminated, they would have no chance in the future. "Boss, we understand." "Understood. Senior brother, you gave him face yet were shameless. We should have killed them all just now. How dare a trash at the 9th stage of the King Swordsman act so arrogantly in front of us? Kill him. A bunch of ignorant fools." After returning to the room, the man was very angry. However, just as he finished speaking, Fox Eye Man slapped him across the face. "Pa!" The man was slapped into the wall. Blood trickled down the corner of his mouth and his eyes were filled with fear. He didn't dare to say a word or even breathe as he crouched down by the wall. Fox Eye Man said coldly, "Do you think I can teach you how to do things? Use your pig's brain and think, why did I leave just now? Did you not see that the person at the 9th stage of King Swordsman had hidden his true strength? Otherwise, how could he be the leader? Do you think he is at the 9th stage of the King Swordsman? His power can kill you in an instant, understand?" The anger in Fox Eye Man surged. He felt extremely displeased. However, he was not blinded by his anger. He was very clear that the moment his pressure entered Long Fei's mind, those pair of monster eyes were instantly shattered by his pressure. That kind of feeling. At that moment, it was as if he was being held by the scythe of death. The same was true for him. He knew that Long Fei was not simple. However, he did not think that he was worse than Long Fei because he had only used the pressure of the 9th level of the Sword Emperor. and not his power of life. His power of life was the strongest. Wait and see. The corner of Fox-Eye Man's eyes slightly narrowed as killing intent surged. At this moment, the auction venue suddenly quieted down. Fox-Eye Man immediately walked to the window and secretly clenched his fists. God's Pavilion. The auctioneer stepped forward, his voice excited, and said, "This is the most important item in this auction, and we, the Four Great Merchant Union, spent a lot of money to obtain it from a secret world. It has two names. One is called Thousand-Layered Demon Tower, the other is called God's Pavilion. If it is in the hands of the demon race, then it is naturally the Thousand Goblins Tower. If it is in the hands of the human race, he will be called God's Pavilion. What can it do? We've searched for countless of appraisers, but none of them were able to appraise it, so we know nothing about it. We should also remind everyone here of the bidders. You all can decide on your own. Otherwise, if you don't complain about our auction when the time comes and buy it at a high price, don't blame us for using it." Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Laughter erupted from below the stage. The auctioneer said half-jokingly, "Indeed. If he bought it at a high price and didn't know how to use it, wouldn't he be a fool? Don't talk so much nonsense, hurry up and bring that 1000-monster tower out. Yeah, don't waste time. Hurry and bring it out. I've long heard of some God's Pavilion. Today, I want to see what they are." The vast majority of people did not know what God's Pavilion was. He did not know what it was used for. However, Fox-Eye Man wasn't too sure either, but he knew that this God's Pavilion was a super treasure, because he knew of two proverbs. The God's Pavilion was home to 10,000 gods, and no one lived beneath them. That was all he knew. These two sentences were enough to explain everything. At this time, the auctioneer coughed and said, "Please take the item out." One of the ceremonial ladies was holding a tray. On the tray, there was a red cloth. Beneath the red cloth, there was something that was 30 centimeters tall, similar to a pagoda. The auctioneer walked forward. He was excited too. He had never seen the God's Pavilion before, so he slowly lifted the red cloth. Beneath the red cloth was a building. However, it was a mini building. It was divided into 3 levels, just like the grand hall of a temple. I couldn't see anything. Without any divine light or special aura, it could be said to be similar to an ordinary model. It was simply impossible to tell what kind of divine object it was. Poochie. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Everyone stared at the God's Pavilion on the tray with their eyes wide open. Some of them could not hold it in and burst out laughing. This is the God's Pavilion. Ha ha ha. If this is the God's Pavilion, then my home is the God King's palace. Isn't this too disappointing? Damn, what the hell is this thing? Who would buy this? Whoever buys it, that's an idiot. It's totally a scam. Too disappointing. Long Fei looked at the phoenix, which also looked at the God's Pavilion on the tray, and said, "My darling, it's not wrong, it's the God's Pavilion." With the words phoenix, Long Fei's heart was at ease. With the words phoenix, Long Fei's heart was at ease. However, he really wanted to know the purpose of this God's Pavilion. Girl, what is the purpose of this God's Pavilion? An ordinary pagoda. Long Fei also could not feel its power, nor did he sense its aura. If the phoenix had not said so, Long Fei definitely would not have wanted to bid for such an item. The phoenix did not say anything. The dragon within Long Fei's body said, God's Pavilion should be considered a divine object in the early stages of the ancient era. It can contain all the divine beings in the world to cultivate with. However, it has other functions as well. For example, it can absorb the soul and become a deity. Once it becomes a deity, it can be sent to you. It nurtures myriad gods, and it is limitless and powerful. There is a proverb, all gods inhabit the God's Pavilion, and there is no living being below the all gods. If they could gather all the gods would be dead, but since ancient times, no one had gathered all 10,000 gods. Only the divinity had such a divine being, but if one wanted to gather all the divine beings, one had to kill 10,000. It was hard, impossible, and once people find out you have God's Pavilion on you, All of the powerhouse in the divine space will chase after you and kill you, making you the #1 wanted criminal. Heh. Interesting. The corner of Long Fei's mouth raised slightly, revealing an excited smile. Putting everything else aside, just killing the myriad gods would be very interesting. What did he come to the ancient world for? Kill the Emperor Xian. How powerful was the Emperor Xian? Half of the divine space was his. How many gods were there in the Xians, and how many dogs were there in the divine space? Long Guangdao, Master, you have to be careful. Once God's Pavilion recognizes you as his master, you will be the lord of all gods, so the matters here will definitely be known by the divine space. At that time, the powerhouse of the divine space will come and kill you. Shall we stop? Right now, Long Fei was having a hard time even breaking through the Emperor Swordsman rank. If he had another God's Pavilion on him, the pressure he would have to face would be too big. What he meant to say was, bewildering, vulgar development. Bewildering. Bewildering. However, Long Fei was not someone who was afraid of things. The Lord of all gods. Heh. This title is not bad. Long Fei became even more excited. Originally, he wasn't really interested in the God's Pavilion. Hearing Long Quang's words, he became excited. Phoenix also simply said a bit, but it wasn't as clear as what Long Quang said. But from the Phoenix's point of view, Long Fei was definitely important to her. On the auction stage, the auctioneer said, I'm afraid only those who know how much this item is worth, so this item does not set a starting price. Everyone is free to bid. Also, if we can't take out that many holy source stones, we can use similar products to exchange for them. Our merchant union has appraisers and valuers. No matter if you are a holy artifact or an immortal equipment, I can give you an estimate. All right, let the auction begin. The auctioneer's voice fell. A lot of people in the audience said, no starting bid. The auctioneer said, there is no starting bid. Then when I offer one holy source stone, if no one bids, it will also be mine. The auctioneer said, that's right. All right, then I'll give you one holy source stone. F***K, you're too stingy. I bid 10 pills. I bid 100. I'll pay 1,000 then. It's not bad to put it at home as a decoration. Many people started to bid, but it was all just for show. No one could blame them. They had no idea what it was. The disciples in the boxes did not even think about bidding. There was no need to waste their money on something that they did not understand how to use. After a few minutes, the God's Pavilion's price had only risen to over 10,000 holy source stones. It was a tragic sight. However, the bidding continued. There were quite a few bidders, but the price increases were very low. Even if the auction went on like this, there wouldn't be any result until tomorrow. It was also at this time. In room number 1, Fox-Eye Man walked out. His voice sank as he said, Sword Sky Sect bids 10 million, as soon as he finished. Immediately, the entire auction place immediately fell silent. They all turned to look at room number 1. Fox-Eye Man's bid scared the auctioneer. He never thought that Sword Sky Sect would make such a bid. Not just him. Many of the disciples and elders of the large sects were slightly startled. What's going on? Sword Sky Sect actually made a bid. Could it be that they know what this God's Pavilion is? Could this God's Pavilion really be some kind of divine object? Even the Sword Sky Sect has bid. I'm afraid this item is not too bad. Elder, do you want to bid? The truly powerful and illustrious people were all in the various private booths. They were well aware of the Sword Sky Sect's bid, so this item was definitely not ordinary. It was just that. Without waiting for other people to bid, Fox-Eye Man said indifferently, my Sword Sky Sect will definitely get this item. If anyone bidding against me is going to be going against my Sword Sky Sect. This was a naked threat. However, the Sword Sky Sect was too strong. No one dared to provoke them. When the Fox-Eye Man said this, the restless people all quieted down, and no one dared to openly offend the Sword Sky Sect. He was going to be the clan congress soon. Offending him at this critical moment was making things difficult for him. The auction house quieted down as Fox-Eye Man revealed a proud look. However, Before he could finish feeling proud, Zhao Dahan walked out. My boss bids 100 million. After calling out the price, Zhao Dahan glanced at the fox-eye man in disdain. You can even call out and bid of 10 million? TCH. It was extremely disdainful. This was a blatant provocation. Fox-eye man's pupils constricted as a cold light filled his eyes. The temperature of the entire auction place instantly dropped to 0, and many people could not help but shiver. Fox-eye man said coldly, a mere ancient antiquity is really going to compete with me? Have you thought about the consequences? Zhao Dahan said, I do not know the consequences, but I know that the rules of the auction house is that those with a high price will win. If you cannot afford it, then just wait to the side. If you can, then quickly bid, do not delay our time. You. Fox-eye man's gaze could kill. He looked towards the auctioneer and said, 150 million. 150 million? Rub. How boring. Zhao Dahan taunted and said straightforwardly, my boss bids 1 billion. To Long Fei, money was only a number. Compared to the holy source vein mine, a billion was just like a strand of hair. The Sword Sky sect is awesome. What the Sword Sky sect wanted, no one else could take. What I want is to crush. Not giving the Sword Sky sect the slightest bit of face, he ruthlessly slapped the fox-eye man's face. 1 billion. This suddenly increased the bid by 850 million. What the F***K? Isn't this slapping Sword Sky sect in the face? Who are they? Are they not afraid of the Sword Sky sect taking revenge? These people are definitely tired of living. Even the Sword Sky sect dares to offend them, they probably won't live past tonight. At this moment, Fox-eye man's lungs were about to explode. Long Fei really did not give him any face. Not only did he not give him any face, he even slapped him in the face. How infuriating. With fury that soared to the skies, Fox-eye man's eyes were spewing fire. He looked at Zhao Dahan gloomily and said, you must fight with me for it, right? With fury that soared to the skies, Fox-eye man's eyes were spewing fire. He looked at Zhao Dahan gloomily and said, you must fight with me for it, right? You have to think about the consequences. Zhao Dahan laughed, it's a threat again, can you use some new tricks? Why would they say that they fought over the items in the auction? People make money at auctions. Are you going to bid or not? If you want to bid, then hurry up. If you don't, this thing is ours. Zhao Dahan's face was full of smugness, as if he did not put Fox-eye man in his eyes at all. Fox-eye man replied, all right. Ancient antiquity, right? Think about the consequences. Fox-eye man growled, and said, I would like to see how you will fight me. As soon as he finished, Fox-eye man turned his right hand, revealing a spirit pearl that was shining with a golden light and burst out with divine power. He said, this is the inner core of the divine space divine beast, it has 10 million years of power. How much is it worth? The inner core made the whole auction place look like it belonged to the divine Mu, and its aura was completely different. The auctioneer looked in another direction in shock. A few appraisers began discussing. Finally, he came to a conclusion. The auctioneer swallowed his saliva and said, just now, our merchant union's estimate price was 2 billion. When everyone heard this, they all swallowed their saliva. The divine object of the divine space. 2 billion. This was too fierce. Phoenix glanced at the orb in Fox-eye man's hands and said softly, however, the internal core of an ordinary divine space demon beast is only the energy of a divine space demon beast that cultivates the power of a god. To be able to release such a divine light in the mortal world makes it seem very precious. However, a price of 2 billion is also very reasonable. Zhao Dahan's eyes tightened as he looked at Long Fei, and said, boss, it's 2 billion. Money is not a problem. The question now was whether they had brought that much with them. This was the key. However, Long Fei stood up from his chair, slowly walked to the window, took a glance at the Fox-eye man, and lightly smiled as he said, since Sword Sky Sect has already offered 2 billion, then how can my ancient antiquity open up less? 10 billion. With that, the entire hall went silent. Fox-eye man's expression became even uglier. It really was slapping his face, 10 billion. It completely overwhelmed his bid. He just wanted to crush them. Unhappy. I'm not in a good mood to continue bidding. Long Fei smiled. Fox Eye Man clenched his teeth, his eyes staring straight at Long Fei. The audience began to boil with excitement. 10 billion, how much is that? Even the top sects don't have that many holy source stones, right? F*CK. Does a sect I've never heard of have that much money? Are you here to play? 10 billion was not a small number. Even a top sect would not be able to take out that many holy source stones. The auctioneer also asked with a puzzled expression, Lord, 10 billion isn't a small number. As for you, Long Fei said, don't worry, I won't lose a single cent then. Long Fei looked at Fox Eye Man and said, are you continuing to bid? If you add a little more of this, I won't take it. He looked at Fox Eye Man with a teasing expression. Fox Eye Man's anger nearly caused his body to explode. His junior brother said in a low voice, Senior brother, just call it a high price. When the time comes, we will not give any money to the Allied Trade Association. What can they do? The Sword Sky sect and the rest can't afford to offend him. Fox Eye Man shouted, brainless. This is a public auction, what do you think it is? Do you think it's a big deal if something affected the Sword Sky sect's reputation? Junior brother said, then. It can't be that this item will be bought by those trash, right? Let them buy it. Hee hee. Don't worry, how can the things that I, Song Xianhu, want be taken away? Fox Eye Man's eyes were ice cold as he turned to Long Fei and said, Brat, I said that you will regret it. Then. He flung his sleeves and returned to the room. Long Fei disdainfully said, this old man has never known regret in his entire life. The auctioneer looked at Long Fei with his blood boiling, and said, 10 billion going once, 10 billion going twice, 10 billion going thrice, deal. Congratulations to the Lord in room number 7. Sir, please check out backstage as well. They were afraid that Long Fei wouldn't be able to afford that. Long Fei's right hand moved, and 10 ordinary space ring appeared. He swung them over, there's no need to go backstage to finish this, send the things over here. The auctioneer took the 10 space ring S. When the idea moved to open the bottle, he could not help but get excited. All of them were Holy Source's essence. Such a price of 10 billion was at least 20% higher. The auctioneer looked through them one by one and said, thank you, my lord. The crowd went into an uproar. Holy *T, he really brought 10 billion? This is 2F** King extravagant, isn't it? Someone actually brought 10 billion on him? This. It really is extravagant. Is ancient antiquity that rich? How come I've never heard of it before? He actually dared to challenge the Sword Sky sect, and even offended Song Xianhu. He was this year's number 1 seed disciple of the Sword Sky sect, and was 100% confident that he would be able to enter the divine space. This ancient antiquity was afraid that, I'm afraid we don't have any good days ahead of us. Clan Congress will probably die a miserable death. Sigh. You do have money, but you don't have any brains, and you don't have to fight with the Sword Sky sect for it no matter who you fight with. Some were excited, while others felt regretful. They all believed that Long Fei could not offend the Sword Sky sect. If he offended the Sword Sky sect, he would die before he could even enter it. The Sword Sky sect was very powerful, their strength was terrifying. However, Long Fei didn't feel it at all. When the God's Pavilion delivered it to his hand, Long Fei looked at the Phoenix and asked, how do I use this thing? Phoenix replied, first, you have to make it recognize you as its master. If it doesn't recognize you, I'm afraid that you won't be able to subdue it and it won't listen to your commands. Understood. Long Fei faintly said. Just as Long Fei wanted to make the God's Pavilion his master, Wu Tu's face darkened and said, Boss, it's not good. Long Fei stopped recognizing her as master and immediately asked, what's the matter? Wu Tu said, the God number 1 yard's array formation has been broken. Zhao Dahan's eyes narrowed, and he immediately said, Senior brother Lu Zun. The array Wu Tu created was at least an emperor-level array. To be able to break this formation was definitely a super powerhouse. Once the formation was broken, Lu Xun would be in danger. Long Fei replied, "Go back to your residence." Lu Xun was the brother that he brought with him. Since danger had appeared, of course he had to rush back. Long Fei kept the god's pavilion. The group swiftly left the auction house. However, just as they were about to leave the auction venue, two people blocked their path. Song Xianhu and his junior brother. Song Xianhu said indifferently, "Stay here, God's pavilion, kneel down and kowtow to apologize. I will spare your lives, otherwise, all of you will die here." With the formation broken, this person's cultivation would definitely not be simple, at least above Emperor Swordsman rank. With the formation broken, this person's cultivation would definitely not be simple, at least above Emperor Swordsman rank. Lu Xun being alone at home was bound to be dangerous. The person Long Fei brought out was his brother. Since his brother was in danger, Long Fei would rush back immediately. Now, Song Xianhu had blocked his way. Since he had offended Song Xianhu in front of so many people, he naturally would not let this matter rest. In the auction venue, he did not make a move due to the alliance. He didn't have to worry too much about leaving the auction house now. Hand over your things, kowtow, and apologize. All of you will be able to leave alive today. Song Xianhu stared at Long Fei and the ripples beneath his feet gently bounced away. The aura exuding from his body was abnormally strong. Intense pressure. Zhao Dahan and the others all had ugly expressions. His mind was instantly crushed. Bailey Tianhai's brows tightened, and said with some difficulty, "Big brother." Song Xianhu's strength was stronger than they had imagined. If they did not make a sound, they would have directly crushed Zhao Dahan and the others. Moreover, Long Fei's mind also slightly stirred. This fellow's cultivation. Extremely terrifying. It was far from as simple as the Emperor Swordsman. Moreover, with such a terrifying cultivation and talent, what kind of existence could his Sword of the Emperor be? To these people, it was impossible to fuse with normal Sword of the Emperor. If they still did not use it, Zhao Dahan and the others would feel even worse. Long Fei's gaze tensed up, he turned to Bailey Tianhai and said, "You guys go first." While they were talking, boom! Long Fei roared in his heart, three-rate ancient dragon body, buzz. A dragon's roar directly blasted away Song Xianhu's oppressive power. As if they were bearing a heavy burden, Zhao Dahan and the rest, his oppressive might disappeared and his body relaxed. Zhao Dahan immediately wanted to take a step forward and fight, but was stopped by Long Fei, who said, "You guys will go first, leave this place to me." Song Xianhu was not easy to deal with. Without activating the power of the ancient dragon body, Long Fei was not his match at all. Moreover, to deal with Song Xianhu now was a small matter, but dealing with the god number 1 yard first was a big matter. Bailey Tianhai said, "Let's go." He would never hesitate in big matters. He also knew that Long Fei was strong, he could even kill God's powerhouse, so a mere Song Xianhu was not a big problem. "Boss, be careful. Boss, be careful." Bailey Tianhai brought everyone to take a detour and left. Song Xianhu's junior brother said with a heavy voice, "You want to leave? Chimph, have you asked us?" The corner of Song Xianhu's mouth curled up, and said, "I didn't say they could leave." Offended me? Stealing from me? Against my sword Sky Sect. Do you know what rules are? Do you know the rules? Song Xianhu paused for a bit, his eyes revealing a sinister light, as if an old fox was emitting killing intent. In that instant, a strange power from the pubes in his abdomen moved. Boom! An invisible wall blocked their path. Bam! 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 In the blink of an eye, 3 invisible walls descended, forming a square that trapped them inside. Zhao Dahan raged, and his fists sank. Boom! Boom! The power of an emperor was released. Moreover, he also had the courage to use the cosmic stone's power in his abdomen. He threw the stone at the invisible wall and shouted, "Break for me." Turbulent, domineering. As his fist punched out, the space beneath his fist was completely shattered. However, his fists hit the air but did not hit anything blocking his path. His strength did not hit anything. What's going on? My power can't be unleashed. Zhao Dahan's face was wooden. He took a step forward, and his entire body was bounced back by the invisible wall. Anger flared in his eyes, and he punched out once more. But it was the same. Nothing was hit. Wu Hua said with a heavy voice, "I'll do it. Fire can destroy everything in the world. No matter what you are, you will be destroyed just the same." The 5-elemental fire erupted. It burned furiously. However, just like Zhao Dahan, his power was also the same. He could not burn anything, and his power could not cause any harm to the 5 elements wall. It was extremely strange. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. A bunch of trash. Do you know what this is? This is the formless sword world. Do you know what is the sword world? With your standards, you won't understand it even if you were to say it out loud, ha ha ha. Do you know the power of my senior brother? He dared to snatch what the Sword Sky sect wanted. You don't understand the rules, do you? Song Xianhu's junior brother laughed loudly. The invisible sword world. It can create intangible things. It was the power of a sword emperor with a unique temperament. Song Xianhu looked at Long Fei and said, "They are within my invisible sword world. As long as the idea, move, all of them will die. Hand over the gods' pavilion now. Kowtow and apologize to me. I will spare their lives," Song Xianhu said proudly. It was all in his hands now. They controlled their lives. This was the feeling he liked. Long Fei's eyes darkened, and said indifferently, "I originally wanted to spar with you, but from the looks of it," Song Xianhu asked, "What do you think?" Long Fei smiled and said, "I'll give you a chance. If you leave now, I will pretend that nothing happened." Ha ha, Song Xianhu did not wait for Long Fei to finish and laughed, then said, "Seems like you still do not understand the rules. Sure. Your father will let you know the rules today." As soon as he finished, the space between Song Xianhu's eyebrows tightened. Immediately, the invisible wall that Bailey Tianhai and the others were on suddenly changed and became a land of death and sharpness. Everyone felt as if their throats had been grabbed by a force in an instant, their faces turning pale white. At the same time, Long Fei's figure suddenly disappeared. Song Xianhu sneered, "This speed. Too slow." His body suddenly moved and he rushed into the void. Huh! As soon as he finished speaking, Song Xianhu was slightly taken aback. Because he had lost sight of Long Fei. And at this moment, Long Fei roared in his heart, level 6 ancient dragon body, roar. A dragon roar came from the void. Long Fei felt as if a god had descended to the mortal world. His afterimage was superimposed on his body, and with a heavy fall, he stepped on top of Song Xianhu's head, pressing down fiercely. Hualala! 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 The energy and aura released from Song Xianhu's body all exploded. Shattered as glass. Long Fei had also stepped on his entire person from midair. Bam! He stomped heavily on the ground, causing it to cave in. Long Fei looked down from above and said coldly, "Rules? This old man will let you know what rules are." "I'll let you know what rules are. I'll let you know what rules are." Long Fei was furious. He raised his right leg and kicked Song Xianhu's face ruthlessly. Bang, 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 bang. When others used their hands to slap the face, he would use his feet to slap the face. Kicking Song Xianhu's face, with just a few kicks, he was drenched in blood. Rules. Rules. Mother f***ka. Long Fei was furious. What he hated the most was someone else threatening him, and that person was also threatening him. This made him unable to endure it. The level 6 ancient dragon body flipped once again. It could even be said that he killed Song Xianhu instantly. Song Xianhu also knew that Long Fei wasn't simple, but he never dreamed that Long Fei was strong to such an extent. The nearby junior apprentice brother was stupefied by what he saw. Both of his eyes were staring at Long Fei, who was trapped in the deep pit in a daze. What the hell was going on? "Do you know what rules are? Whoever has the toughest fist will be the rule." As he spoke, Long Fei's right leg shook, and immediately sent Song Xianhu's body flying into the air. There was only a tiny bit of blood left on the top of his head. He fainted on the spot, motionless. To Long Fei, Song Xianhu was not a boss. It couldn't even be considered an elite. Long Fei was not interested in killing him. However, Song Xianhu did not need to kill him, he was already crippled. Long Fei slowly walked out of the pit, his eyes staring coldly at the junior brother. He said indifferently, "Are you still telling me your rules?" That junior brother subconsciously shook his head as his Adam's apple rolled. He didn't even dare to speak. Was this king swordsman level 9 powerful to this extent? Not a human at all. Long Fei growled, "Scram." He supported the dying Song Xianhu and escaped frantically, afraid that Long Fei would regret changing his mind. Long Fei retracted his aura, looked at Bailey Tianhai, and said, returning to one of heaven's courtyard. Without any hesitation, they quickly left. Dragon Roar. Holy Dragon Emperor's phantom shadow? A descendant of the Dragon Clan and also a practitioner of the Dragon Clan? Interesting. In the darkness, a man looked at Long Fei's disappearing back, the corner of his mouth slightly curled up as he muttered to himself, if he's a descendant of the dragon race, then we're going to have a huge profit. Buy one for free. Heh heh. The man's voice sounded and he gently waved his black robe. On the black robe was the symbol of the Dark Temple. Dark Apostle. In the darkness, he disappeared in the blink of an eye. In another place. You mean Dragon Roar? And the body of the dragon? In Dark God Tribe, when Xianming Abyss heard the two words Dragon's Roar, Dragon's Body, his eyes instantly shone with a sharp light, as he became extremely excited. The waiter reported, "Your subordinate saw it with his own eyes." Long Fei defeated Sword Sky Sect's Song Xianhu with a single move. Song Xianhu doesn't have any power to resist him at all. The invisible sword world he is so proud of is useless before Long Fei. It disintegrated instantly. I'm afraid he is crippled now. Xianming Abyss became even more excited. No matter what, the dragon race is an ancient clan. How can the strength in their bodies be comparable to that of these mortals? However, Song Xianhu's cultivation is not bad. If he was killed just like that, it means that the power of the dragon body in his body has been cultivated to a certain realm. People of the Dragon Clan? Dragon Clan? Reincarnated? No. An elder of the Xians has looked up the Dragon Clan ceremony and found a disciple of the Dragon Clan who was not reborn to be retrained. Who is he? Xianming Abyss sank into deep thought. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Long Fei. The person Emperor Xian's ancestor wants to kill. Ha ha ha. Xianming Abyss suddenly laughed out loud. I remember. I never would have thought. They all thought he was still in Universal Realm. That idiot Long Wushan is still guarding the entrance and exit of Ancient World. No one would have thought that he had already entered the Ancient World. Ha ha ha. The heavens have been good to me. Xianming Abyss's blood was boiling. He knew his chance had come. As long as he killed Long Fei, he would no longer have to be in charge of the Dark God Tribe. Thinking of this, the smile on Xianming Abyss's face became exceptionally excited. Long Fei. Heh heh. A draconic roar revealed his identity. Long Fei did not know. The various powers in the clan congress were extremely complicated. Dark Apostle who was chasing after the Phoenix found the Phoenix. Dark God Tribe found out about Long Fei's identity. Besides these two forces, there was also one more. Seems like his identity has been exposed. He doesn't know what he's facing at all. He knows that he's a dragon, and he doesn't need to cower in fear. Who wouldn't know that he is so savage? Dragon race. Hee hee. Soon, there will be one less dragon in this world. Sigh. I really don't know why the young mistress fell for him. That bit of aura on his body is comparable to. The Dragon Clan is dead. How many of them are still alive? I'm afraid there are less than 10 of them. Any connections with the dragon race will quickly be destroyed by the Xians. Miss is so close to him now. Will our Phoenix Valley? Phoenix Valley and the Dragon Clan have cut off their relationship a long time ago. Even if Xians wanted to make a move on Phoenix Valley, he had to consider it first. Let's not talk about this anymore. Right now, that brat's side is in danger. We should also bring the young miss back to the valley. Ian, I'm just afraid that miss will resist. You should know her temper. It's a headache. Just from the moment the phoenix appeared at the ancient Lie Mountain and met with the demon emperor, her whereabouts were completely exposed. At the same time, Phoenix Valley had also sent experts to protect Phoenix from the shadows. In order to not displease the Phoenix, they had concealed themselves extremely well and had not been discovered by the Phoenix. There was only one reason for them to come. He brought the Phoenix back to the valley. However, after they had observed for a period of time, they realized that the Phoenix was very attached to Long Fei, so it would probably be impossible for them to take it away by force. They were waiting for the right moment. And then there was Long Fei. The group hurried back to God number 1 yard. They ran into the courtyard and found Lu Xun sitting cross-legged with his face pale. The yard was a mess. Hongqi and his men carried dozens of corpses on the ground. Seeing that Long Fei and the others had returned, Lu Xun's expression darkened. A mouthful of fresh blood gushed out. Peak owner, you have returned. It was a strenuous struggle, and as soon as he finished his words, he could no longer hold on. His eyes grew dim and he fell into a coma. Long Fei stepped forward to support Lu Xun, and with a shout, he shouted, "Pills!" Bailey Tianhai immediately ran forward and took out the divine ranked heal pill. Long Fei felt the injuries on Lu Xun's body, and his forehead tightened. The nameless anger in his heart exploded to the top of his head. He couldn't help it. Wu Tu said, "Boss, it's the God's Extreme Palace's men." The corners of Long Fei's eyes twitched a few times. God's Extreme Palace, right? This daddy will make you completely extinct today. Lu Xun was severely injured, causing his anger to surge. Lu Xun was severely injured, causing his anger to surge. He's already fighting his way to his doorstep. How could he endure this kind of attitude? Of course not. Lu Xun's injuries had stabilized, Long Fei explained to him before immediately walking out of the courtyard towards the number 1 room with word Huang. Long Fei did not have any grudges against him. If he did not take revenge, then he would not be called Long Fei. However, it could be said that the God's Extreme Palace's side had suffered terrible losses. Originally, they wanted to take control of Sky number 1 when Long Fei and the rest were at the auction, but who would have thought? One array killed 6 disciples, and 2 of them were super disciples of the Emperor Swordsman rank. The final formation had been broken. But Dongfang Hao was also severely injured. Especially during his battle with Lu Xun, he did not benefit much. Even though he had injured Lu Xun, he had no choice but to escape at the last moment. If a disciple was this strong, when Long Fei and the rest return, would he still be alive? Initially, he only felt that Long Fei and the rest were just a bunch of upstarts with high cultivation, but they weren't profound enough. With the strength of his disciples, defeating them wouldn't be a problem. However, he was completely wrong. Lu Xun almost caused him to fall over. If all of them came back, would he be able to hold them off? Dongfang Hao was well aware of this point. Thus, after he returned to the number 1 room with word Huang, he directly went to the courtyard of the leader. He directly went to find the head of the God's Extreme Palace, who was also the palace master of the God's Extreme Palace, Chen Xian Bell. "Mistress, the reason why I'm doing all this is also for the God's Extreme Palace. It is also because I want to find more cultivation resources for the God's Extreme Palace. If we can get our hands on the Holy Source's vein mine, then our God's Extreme Palace will definitely surpass the Sword Sky sect and become the number 1 sect in the ancient world within 10 years. Please enlighten me, mistress." Dongfang Hao had mixed feelings for her, and she talked about how she would do her best for the God's Extreme Palace, showing her loyalty. Chen Xian Bell. She was a woman that was capable of bringing calamity to the world. Her beauty was something that even strongest emperor swordsmen like Dongfang Hao did not dare to look at directly. It was a kind of breathtaking beauty that would cause one to be infatuated with it just by looking at it. Other than being beautiful, she was also exceptionally cold. His eyes were filled with coldness, as though he was ready to die at any moment. Chen Xian Bell listened coldly and looked at Dongfang Hao with both eyes. He said lightly, Are you sure they have discovered the vein mine of the holy source? Joy immediately burst forth in Dongfang Hao's eyes, and he immediately said, I am sure, but if we did not find out that the veins of the holy source, for sure, would not be able to produce so many of those, then it would be easily worth tens of millions of holy source stones. Even the Sword Sky sect does not have those. So generous. Dongfang Hao spoke with conviction, afraid that Chen Xianbel would not believe him. He had to make the Asgard master believe it. Because so many disciples had died, if he did not take revenge, if he did not get a piece of the holy source's essence, or he would not be able to take it. He had wanted to keep it for himself, but now it seemed that he couldn't. He could only borrow Chen Xianbel's power. This was his only path. Chen Xianbel squinted his eyes and started to think. An elder standing at the side said, if this is an ordinary sect, then it is really possible that they have discovered the holy source vein mine, if not they would not have been able to stay in the God number 1 yard. How many holy source stones is that? I think that what Elder Dongfang said is most likely true. Otherwise, how could a small sect send a strongest emperor swordsman out of a great assembly of the war master? You're right. Mistress, this might be a chance. The holy source vein mine, who wouldn't want to own it? It had to be known that the cultivation resources of the ancient world were becoming fewer and fewer, and the consumption of holy source stones was extremely huge. If one wanted to support a large sect, without cultivation resources, they could only decline. In order for a sect to become stronger, cultivation resources determined everything. Why was the Sword Sky sect so strong? It was also because of the abundance of cultivation resources. In these few years, it was very difficult to break through God's extreme palace, and it was also because there was no further increase in cultivation resources. When Dongfang Hao said this, her heart throbbed a little. Plus, what kind of sect was the ancient antiquity? A middle-ranking sect. This kind of sect was like a grain of sand in front of her God's extreme palace, nothing more. It would be easy to destroy it. However, she was still a little doubtful about one thing, was that the ancient antiquity did not possess the holy source vein mine after all. At this moment, a disciple walked into the hall and said, Mistress, Elder Dongfang is right. They definitely have the holy source veins mine, and they nearly contracted out on the auction. Buy whatever you want, and they are all worth several times the price. They don't even give others the chance to compete. And the most important thing is that he took Song Xianhu's things, and did not give him any face at all. When Song Xianhu went berserk on the spot, Sword Sky sect would definitely not let them get away easily. Everyone was shocked. Song Xianhu and the others knew what kind of person he was. It would not be excessive to say that he was Sword Sky sect's #1 genius. He had reached the Emperor Swordsman realm at such a young age, but the sword of the Emperor of the Invisible Sword realm had shocked the entire ancient world. Amongst the disciples of the younger generation, there were almost no one that could rival Song Xianhu, other than a few monsters. They never thought that Long Fei would actually fight with Song Xianhu and snatch Song Xianhu's things on the spot. How could Sword Sky sect let them off? These were not what the God's extreme palace had to consider. Chen Xianbel was thinking about something else, a mine with the holy source. Contractual auction. Pick up the thing that Song Xianhu wanted. This was not a normal amount of money. This meant that they were very, very wealthy. Even the Sword Sky sect would not be able to compare to this kind of wealth, and it was as Dongfang Hao had said, they all had spirit medicine vein mines. With the holy source vein mine, his power would at least double in 2 years. It would not be impossible for him to surpass the Sword Sky sectess in 10 years. When that time comes, he would become the hero in the eyes of the powerhouse S of the divine space. He might even be able to cross the Emperor Swordsman and step into the heavenly god domain. Thinking of all these, Chen Xianbel's cold eyes flashed with a trace of excitement. He was no longer calm in his heart, and asked with a heavy voice, "Where are they now?" Dongfang Hao said, "The auction is over, they should be back in God number 1 yard soon." "Mistress, give them to me. I'll capture them immediately." He couldn't take it anymore. Tonight, he was in an extremely sorry state, so he must take revenge. Although he was severely injured, He believed that as long as he could bring a few elders of the god's extreme palace with him, getting rid of the ancient antiquity would not be a problem. Chen Xianbel was about to speak. Suddenly, bam! A loud explosion resounded. The outer court's gate was kicked flying. The two heavy pear blossom doors were directly smashed into pieces. The two guards were also sent flying into the yard wall. They coughed out blood and died on the spot. At this moment, a man was standing at the entrance to the courtyard. Anger was written all over his face. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Long Fei arrived. He took a step into the courtyard and shouted loudly, "You scum of the god's extreme palace, come out right now." Chen Xianbel also frowned. "You dare come here and behave atrociously? How dare you?" In another place. Lord, there's going to be a fight. Long Fei and the people from God's extreme palace are going to fight. Should we care? Xianming Abyss smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry." The waiter was startled, and said, "Master, didn't you say that Long Fei is especially important? God's extreme palace is also powerful, and the leader of the group is Chen Xianbel. That woman is very sinister. What if he? The sect's strength was ranked 6th, how could it be weak? He was ranked 6th in the entire ancient world, and was in existence from the top sects. A single person going to overturn a sect? This was simply impossible. Xianming Abyss said, "Don't worry, if he can't even deal with a single god's extreme palace, then he isn't the person my Xians is looking for." The waiter said, "Then let's not bother about it anymore." Xianming Abyss replied, "I don't care. But go get me a stool, I'm going to the theater." The waiter was stunned for a moment. He stopped for half a minute before reacting. There was a special place in the yard. Heaven Viewing Tower. It looked down on everything around it. Number 1 room with word Huang had a panoramic view. Xianming Abyss was not anxious. Right now Long Fei was already not able to jump out from his hands. What he needed to do now was to understand Long Fei's strength. The stool was brought in. Xianming Abyss crossed his legs and looked at number 1 room with word Huang leisurely. He waved his hand and said, "How can you not have peanut and melon seeds in the show? Go and prepare it for me." The waiter quickly obeyed. On Long Fei's side. Who dares to behave so atrociously in our god's extreme palace? Kid, I think you're tired of living. Why don't you take a look at this place? Don't say so much, just take him down. The big door was kicked away and the two disciples were sent to their deaths. Dozens of disciples rushed out from the courtyards on both sides and surrounded Long Fei. The weakest of these disciples was at the 6th level of King Swordsman. The ones with higher cultivation had reached Emperor Swordsman rank. In the clan congress competition, the elites of the sect were all brought in. All of them were extremely infuriated. They had never seen the sect crest on Long Fei's chest in an instant before, and this made them give off an aura that was superior to others. "You dog, you aren't even looking at the place when you're acting atrociously. How dare you behave so atrociously in our god's extreme palace's territory? I would like to see how many lives you have." All of them looked extremely aggressive, as though they did not place Long Fei in their eyes at all. Long Fei said lightly, "If it's the god's extreme palace, then there shouldn't be the wrong place to come to." As soon as he finished, Long Fei's aura suddenly changed, and he said, "Since you have come to the right place, then all of you go, die." When the word dead came out, the idea moved, and the power of the 3-rate dragon body erupted. At this moment, Long Fei's figure directly charged into the crowd, as he released a strong dragon's might that caused the power in his body to explode. Rumble, 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 bang. With a loud bang, all the surrounding god's extreme palace disciples' heart veins were shattered. All of them were bleeding from their 7 orifices. He didn't have time to react at all. He didn't even know how he died. Long Fei withdrew his aura and walked towards the backyard. At this moment, one by one, their bodies fell to the ground. One hit kill. Under his rage, Long Fei would not show any mercy. He took a step into the inner palace and shouted once more, "Everyone from God's extreme palace, come out here." Bam! The inner courtyard's gate was also kicked and blasted out in an instant. However, unlike before, the inner courtyard seemed to be devoid of people. Long Fei looked at the inner courtyard being quiet, he shivered between his brows, then curled the corner of his lips and stepped forward. Buzz! When his feet touched the ground, the surrounding environment instantly changed. It was also at this moment. Laughter rang out from the crowd. Ha ha ha! Once you enter my heavenly end array, you can forget about coming out alive. Ha ha ha! Foolish young man, he has no experience at all. Kid, tell me, where is your holy source vein mine? If you were to say it out loud today, I will spare your life. If you don't say it, this heaven's end array will grind you down like a meat grinder. Just thinking about it will make you feel uncomfortable. Qian Xian Bell appeared in the heaven's end formation. His gaze was cold. From head to toe, his entire body emitted an aura of someone high above him, as he coldly looked at Long Fei. Long Fei stood in the middle of the array and did not move. Seeing Qian Xian Bell's naked eyes staring at her from head to toe, sizing her up, chest to chest, buttocks to butt, and that kind of mature beauty, completely different from a young and immature beauty, Qian Xian Bell was one of those people that gave her a glance. In his mind, he would think of ways to get her to bed. Long Fei said evilly, "She looks not bad, but I wonder how her skills in bed are." Long Fei looked straight into her eyes, without any hint of discomposure, and instead had a face full of frivolity. This made Qian Xian Bell very unhappy, and what Long Fei had said made her even more unhappy. Long Fei said, "That's right." Qian Xian Bell asked, "Does your sect have control over the veins of the holy source?" Long Fei also replied honestly, "That's right." Qian Xian Bell did not expect Long Fei's reply to be so straightforward, and said, "If I tell you the location, I will spare your life." Long Fei laughed and said, "How about this? Today, if you make me feel comfortable serving you, and leave the god's extreme palace to become my slave, you will do what I want, and I will spare your life." "You're courting death." Qian Xian Bell flew into a rage on the spot. Long Fei laughed. "The ones who are courting death are you guys, understand?" Qian Xian Bell said. "Brat, you have to be clear, this is the Heaven's End array, even your cultivation at the 9th stage of the King Swordsman cannot break it, how can you be so arrogant? You still want me to become your slave? I think you don't know your limits." The corner of Long Fei's mouth curled up as he looked at the array. This is also called a array? If this is called a formation, then it's simply insulting the word formation. As soon as he finished, Long Fei's right leg fiercely shook. "Break for me. Rumble." He channeled the power of ancient dragon body and heavily stomped his foot down. A beam of light shot out. Hualala. Hualala. The power of the array shattered and the eye of the array was instantly broken by Long Fei. This was not because the array was not strong enough, but because Long Fei's power could completely suppress the power of the array. Qian Xian Bell's figure also disappeared into the array. She was extremely shocked. How could someone at the 9th stage of the King Swordsman use his or her power to break an Emperor-level formation? The formation shattered. The environment around Long Fei returned to normal, the surroundings were filled with people from the god's extreme palace. Compared to the front yard, there were more elders here. Furthermore, every single one of them was a powerhouse of the Emperor Swordsman rank. All of them stared at Long Fei angrily, with greed in their eyes. They had heard everything Long Fei said just now. Long Fei swept his gaze across them and smiled. "There are a lot of people here. Send all of you into hell, and the god's extreme palace will be finished." An elder was about to fly into a rage. Long Fei looked at Qian Xian Bell and said, "The words that I have said earlier were still valid. You should think about it carefully." Finished. Long Fei moved and said coldly, "All of you have to die." "All of you must die. All of you must die." With that said, the aura on Long Fei's body changed. Without so much hesitation, he activated the level 6 ancient dragon body's power. With a dragon's roar and a roar, Holy Dragon Empress power exploded. Immediately, directly entering the cut cabbage mode. One punch, one kill. They were all instantly killed with a single punch. not even giving you a chance to react. Emperor Swordsman rank? It was not enough. Long Fei was now at the 9th level of the King Swordsman. As his own strength grew stronger, the power of the level 6 ancient dragon body grew stronger as well. When he was still at the immortal swordsman rank, the power of the level 6 ancient dragon body was already enough to kill God's powerhouse. Rank, killing these Emperor Swordsman rank cannot be easy. Boom. Rumble. Rumble. Under the fists, they were all death, one after the other, their vision blurry. You simply could not see how Long Fei killed people, and could only see one person after another falling to the ground. Chen Xianbel's pupils shrank rapidly. She wanted to stop it. She wanted to kill Long Fei. However, the moment Long Fei burst forth with his ancient dragon body power, she realized that her thinking just now was a little too naive. It was completely unrealistic. She was completely stupefied. Looking at the elders and disciples falling one by one beside her, her heart started to tremble, and then her body started to tremble. His face began to turn pale. His pupils dilated and trembled. Fear. It was the first time in history that he felt such fear. No, no. Chen Xianbel shouted incoherently. In just a minute, she didn't even know what she experienced. Although she didn't sustain any injuries, that minute was even worse than killing her. She was also in the Emperor Swordsman realm. However, in front of Long Fei, she was like a baby who was still in her infancy. Other than crying, she could do nothing. Boom. The final person fell to the ground with a punch. The yard quieted down. Long Fei retracted the aura on his body and looked at the Chen Xianbel who was trembling non-stop. He had to say it. This woman was a rare beauty. Even though she was afraid, it was hard to control her possessiveness. Long Fei stared at her, and said coldly, "Have you considered it carefully?" Her. Hearing Long Fei's voice, Chen Xianbel's body trembled subconsciously. With incomparable fear in his eyes, he said, Are you a demon?" She could not find the words to describe Long Fei. The dignified palace master of the God's Extreme Palace, the sect master of a top sect in the ancient world, with a cultivation of the Emperor Swordsman, yet she was currently like a weak little girl. Long Fei smirked and said, "If you say I am a devil, then I am definitely a devil. Have you considered the demon's conditions clearly? Do you want to go to hell with them, or become my slave? You'll do whatever I tell you to do." Chen Xianbel looked at Long Fei in a daze. She didn't know what choice she should make. However, she knew she didn't want to die. At the same time, she did not want revenge. Because she clearly understood in her heart that she was just a mortal and Long Fei was a god. No matter how many slaves she had, they would never be able to stand above a god. Looking at Chen Xianbel's stupefied expression, Long Fei slowly said, "You don't want to make a choice? Then I'll take it that you want to go to hell with them? Sure. Then die with them." Long Fei suddenly took a step forward, and walked towards Chen Xianbel. Sensing the oppressive aura coming from Long Fei's body, in an instant, she immediately knelt onto the ground, and said with a trembling voice, I am willing to become your slave, please don't kill me." She wanted to live. He wanted to live. Long Fei's mouth revealed a sinister smile. He rushed to Chen Xianbel's front and hugged her. Chen Xianbel didn't dare to resist, and curled his body like a frightened little girl and leaned into Long Fei's embrace. Long Fei laughed sinisterly. "Where is your room?" Chen Xianbel pointed to the left. Long Fei carried her and walked towards the room. Holy Dragon Emperor's power. Not bad. Is this the last trump card of the Dragon Clan? Relying on this trump card, you want to turn the tables? I met you today. Heh. Xianming Abyss smiled faintly as he watched Long Fei carry Chen Xianbel into the room. The scene of Long Fei killing the God's Extreme Palace elders appeared in his mind. Those elders from the God's Extreme Palace, the experts did not know how they died, but in Xianming Abyss's eyes, Long Fei's movements were slow. To be exact, it should be very slow. To him, the power of the level 6 ancient dragon body was mediocre, but it was just that Holy Dragon Emperor's power system made him a little stunned. The waiter at the side said, "Master, the God's Extreme Palace was annihilated just like that." Xianming Abyss said, "It's gone." This world is just like that, provoking someone you shouldn't, you should pay the price. After all, this fellow is the reincarnation of the divine space. How can a sect like the God's extreme palace in this mortal world afford to offend him? However, Xian Ming Abyss's voice suddenly became gloomy. He also provoked people he shouldn't have, so Xian Ming Abyss did not continue. However, his aura became exceptionally cold, with a strong killing intent. The killing intent caused the surrounding space to slowly tear open. A tiny bit of void appeared, as if black flames were burning within. The waiter was so scared that he didn't even dare to breathe. 9th grade deity stage. Air-crushing space. This was the first time Xian Ming Abyss had displayed the strength of a 9th stage deity. Immense strength. Early morning. Long Fei walked out of Qian Shen Bel's room. The night was very comfortable. Qian Shen Bel did not follow her out. She was lying on the bed, and her body was unmoving. Long Fei stood at the door of the room and said lightly, "Rest well, otherwise. Being on good terms with me is equivalent to being on the same level as you cultivating for 100 years. Finished." Long Fei then walked away. Qian Shen Bel, who was on the bed, felt pain all over her body, and her eyes were filled with tears. However, this was also her first time. No matter how old she was, she felt like she had suddenly become a woman. No pain. I just can't accept it. Huff. Qian Shen Bel cried, but she did not cry. She endured the pain and struggled to sit up, staring at the door of the room. Her fists tightly grabbed onto the bed sheets that had been torn into countless pieces last night. Aha! He wanted to meditate and cultivate so that he could recover his body. At this moment, an incomparably powerful force stirred within his body. This power was something she had never seen before. She knew very well that this power was definitely not her own. Suddenly, he thought about what Long Fei had said. Thinking about the thing that Long Fei had left in her body last night, Qian Shen Bel ran it for a week. After a long time, a bright light shone in her eyes. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.